Well, the hope is that we are live and hopefully you all can hear me. So, welcome to my medieval sewing party. I am the creative Contessa, and we are here in Daegu, South Korea at one of my favorite coffee houses in Korea. Ironically, this is a Starbucks, but I come here specifically because of the wonderful tea. So today I'm going to be working on well, I thought I brought the thing to show you all, but I guess I did not. Nope. I thought I brought the sleeve to show you the thing on which these are going to be going, but basically today we're going to be assembling the velvet cuffs that are going to go on the sleeve for my new Burgundian gown. So yeah, very excited to finally be getting this done, and this is silk velvet, right? And you can see the shine that it has, right? And that's because it's a silk pile on, I think, probably actually a cotton or polyester ground, but it's a silk pile, so that's the thing that matters. So yeah. What is everyone working on today? I'm just going to get my needles out. So the first thing we're actually going to do, this is one half of it. This is the other half. So the first thing we're going to be doing is actually pinning these together and then basting them. So basting, as some of you may recall, is thread glue, basically, where we actually use thread to hold this together, and then we put it together with the actual stitches. So yeah, sorry I haven't been very much live this last week as much as I had planned to. I caught a cold, and believe it or not, sniffling and coughing and hacking in the middle of the live stream is not a good look. So also don't really feel like live streaming when I feel like garbage. So I'm well enough past whatever the hell it was that we can actually get on with the serious business of medieval recreation. Yeah. What's everyone working on tonight? Let me know, and also let me know if you can actually hear me. Because as always, technology, the reason I do medieval living history is not because I love modern technology. So very often it foils my attempts to do things like communicate with you all in this manner. I've also lately been experimenting with some methods on getting creases and pressure marks out of velvet, and I've got some lessons learned that I will be sharing with you once we have more people in, because I found a video that talked about how to get pressure marks and creases out of velvet, and then when I tried it on my silk velvet, I quickly realized that the methods that work on synthetic fibers do not work well on natural fibers, especially a delicate natural fiber like silk. So yeah, I'll be discussing my lessons learned there and other things I've since learned about getting pressure marks and creases out of velvet. The problem, with us as modern medievalists, we are frequently wearing our garments and storing our garments in ways, and our fabric in ways that was never ever done, really, in the Middle Ages. It wasn't a concern before the pre-modern world, before the 20th century, for the most part. So we often end up facing challenges that our medieval forebears just would not have faced. They didn't have necessarily a surfeit of belongings, so they didn't have to come up with clever storage solutions like we do now. Audio's good. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, for instance, we have to think about, well, how would we store our velvet garments? How would we transport our velvet garments? If I'm going to take a velvet gown with me on a long trip if I'm going to take it on an airplane, how can I pack it so that it does not end up with creases? These are all challenges not faced very often by medieval people. They didn't necessarily pack all of their garments up and travel on a regular basis like we do now. Yes, people did travel sometimes, just not as often as we do. So yeah. Nothing historical tonight. Oh, a hexagon quilt. Very cool. Emily, welcome. Thank you for joining us. A hexagon quilt. That's super cool. Holly, what materials are you making your hexagon quilt out of? I've heard some people make a very good argument that hexagons are the superior shape. That, in fact, even nature has acknowledged this. For instance, if you look at beehives. I
saw a massive beehive over on Henry today.
Beehive or wasp?
I don't know, but it was huge and it looked like a paper wasp.
Oh, it was probably paper, because I I doubt we would ever have anything so nice as a beehive just hanging out. Yeah. Erin, welcome. You're stress sewing the night before a big event. Perfect. I'm glad I could be here for you, Erin.
Somebody from Italy is there.
Ciao. Fizzy Wizzy. Oh, Pierluigi. Juventus. Ciao dall'Italia. Ciao da Corea del Sur. Oh, Fizzy Wizzy, appreciate that. That's lovely. It's a scrap quilt, but mostly cottons, I think. Korea has a big tradition of patchwork that is, you can kind of tell when, as Korea actually got more poor in the Joseon dynasty, the more often you see patchwork being used in both clothing and in wraps for items for gifts for items that were being transported. And you can definitely see the practical applications of this. You want as much as possible to use every single scrap of fabric when fabric is super duper expensive. And so, in earlier Korean periods, we don't really see the patchwork tradition almost at all. It's very little mention is made of it. But, I would say probably the last 150 years in Korea, patchwork has become a much more major part of their textile culture. And of course, in the modern era, the techniques kind of almost vanished, but now thankfully there is an effort to preserve the more traditional handcrafts of Korea and to encourage people to learn them and engage in them. So hopefully we'll see more of that. I really love the Korean patchwork because this of course is developed into a full art, and now there's literally modern artists, textile artists who do nothing but patchwork, and so they'll make an array of items, decorative items or garments out of this patchwork. And the most popular fabrics to make the patchwork out of here are silk and rami. Rami is a kind of nettle cloth that's super, super fine and almost silky. It's so fine, far superior to linen. Shellback Bow. Good morning, good afternoon, or good afternoon in your case. Good evening. I hope you had a lovely nap. I've been an active, proactive napper for most of my life because I worked on a horse stable, and in the summer, growing up, and in the summer it would get very, very hot. So we would get up very early in the morning, get all of the chores, work the horses done, before 10 or 10:30. And then we would go and take a long several-hour break inside, have lunch, get a nap, and then get up and then finish, do the rest of the things once the heat of the midday had passed. And those of you who are from the Mediterranean will recognize that pattern. So, I have recognized the value of a good short nap. The problem comes when you take a nap that's too long. So yeah, if I nap too long, then I pay the penalty for it, and I'll be groggy for a long time. Let's see, the getting up, not the nap itself, yeah. Let me see. Yeah, so is anyone else working on anything? And Erin, what is the event for which you're stress sewing, and what are you stress sewing? I happily am not stress sewing, or not happily. I mean, I guess happily would mean I had actually had a specific event upcoming for which I was sewing, which I don't, so. But I am hoping to get these silk velvet cuffs done, or not cuffs, they are cuffs. They're the lining of the cuff of my new Burgundian gown, right? And for those who wonder what silk velvet looks like, this is it. Check out that shine. So at the beginning of the live stream when no one was here, I mentioned that I'm going to talk about the care and feeding of silk velvet. And one of the things I'm going to talk about, sip here, is how to get the pressure creases out of it and the wrinkles out of it. So you can see on the back, there's actually some unfortunately really deep creases in this because I've had this for years. I bought it on super sale just in case, and it's been transported from pillar to post through multiple military moves. And as a consequence of that, it's got some pretty heavily ingrained creases in it, and those creases reflect in the front, as you can see. So I found a video on YouTube from an upholstery expert. She actually deals in upholstery fabrics and the care and feeding of them. And she did a very good video on how demonstrating very much step by step working right along on how to get the creases and the pressure marks out of velvet by using another piece of velvet that's damp to actually brush them out and convince the grain to relax, the pile to relax, and stand back up again.
We got invited to go to that event.
We got invited to go to what event?
What she's stress sewing for.
We did the Canterbury Fair. Is it the Canterbury Fair?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We were talking, I told her to reach out to me, so we'll go next year. Because
People I met at Penzing on the Warfield.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow. Huh. Yeah, hopefully next year we'll be at Canterbury Fair. That's my hope. Anyway, so this video demonstrated this technique, and I went and I tried it on this exact silk velvet. And what I found out is that silk does not respond to that at all. So let me show you what happened. I don't want to unpin it because I just finished pinning it. You see that? See how fuzzy it is? How much more like a towel it is instead of looking like that? See, that's not de-wrinkled or decreased or depressure marked. That's with it. So basically the rubbing, even with another piece of silk velvet, just caused it to fuzz out and sort of look like fur instead of like velvet. So that is not a method that I recommend on silk velvet. The silk can't handle it. The acetate can, acetate, rayon, those are synthetic fibers, so they can withstand that kind of abuse, but the silk clearly cannot. So I'm going to be experimenting with some other methods of getting the pile to stand back up. I'm going to try some steaming. I'm going, putting it in the bathroom when we're taking a shower and let the steam do its thing, see if that helps. Maybe gently combing. Of course, there are needle boards you can get. And I'm going to look at getting a needle board for ironing, steaming and ironing. We'll see how that works. Oh, you're sewing a set of Roman garb. Erin, is it really hot down there right now in New Zealand? Heat is not something I associate with New Zealand, I will be honest. Whenever I imagine New Zealand, I imagine, all those scenes from Lord of the Rings where it never looks very warm at all. Does the nap of silk velvet feel different than cotton velvet? The nap of silk velvet is silkier. It's literally silkier. That's the best way I can put it. Cotton velvet has more grip. Silk velvet has less grip and is literally silkier. So it's slicker. Yeah, good question.
I just got a notification that you're live.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you actually got a notification. Fantastic.
I'm on the list. So.
Yeah, right. Let me see. It's usually around 36 degrees. Are you kidding? 36 in New Zealand? Wow, okay. Honestly, I just learned something that New Zealand can actually get pretty hot. 36 degrees. That's crazy. Okay. Wow. Nope. Would not have guessed that, would you? 36 is like 98 degrees. Okay, yeah, I could see why people might be leaning towards Mediterranean attire. The funny thing about medievalist events in the summer, whenever your summer is that we generally try to force ourselves into doing things that medieval people just wouldn't have done when it was that hot. Especially in climates where it got up to 36 degrees Celsius during the day. People didn't have tournaments in the middle of the day. They didn't have markets in the middle of the day, right? People in those climates, you have morning activities and evening activities. Middle of the day, things stop generally. Because also in the summer when it's hot, you have longer days, so there's more daylight, so you're not necessarily under this massive onus to get things accomplished when it's that hot. But also, they didn't go outside. They didn't necessarily sleep, but they would stay inside in buildings that were designed to withstand the heat, and buildings that were designed to stay relatively cool, to block out the sun. That's what those central courtyard peristyle buildings are, right? Like the ancient Roman villas, like the Renaissance palazzi, right? Like the tower houses. That's why they have a courtyard in the center and the walls that are basically more or less, it's like almost no windows in them in the Middle Ages to the outside. That's not just a defensive thing. That's to keep the sun from making it too hot inside. So, during the heat of the day, medieval people in the Mediterranean wouldn't go outside. They would do things inside. But here we are, modern medievalists. It's 36 degrees / 98 degrees outside, and we're just going to go out and do these things that are really, really hot and sweaty. It never fails to amaze me. Yeah. Let me see. It makes having heavy tennis courts very hard. We usually do them in the cooler parts of the day and use shade. It's quite hot and dry. I nearly fainted from heat once at court as an attendant. Yeah. You're not the first person I've heard say that at a fair like that, they almost fainted because of the heat. At events like Pennsic, the same thing applies. The battles are held in the morning when the morning dew is still burning off. And it's super humid and it's hot. And so, they start the battle at 9 or 10 a.m. and then they finish it at like noon or 1, right about the time it's getting the most hot. Instead of doing them starting in the late afternoon when it's finally starting to cool, like 4 or even 5 o'clock. So instead, we have all kinds of heat injuries. The lack of sense is somewhat frustrating. Where am I? I am in Daegu, South Korea. Jinil Kim. Yeah, I'm in Daegu, South Korea. I'm actually at a Starbucks, believe it or not. I know it doesn't look like it, especially not with a Hanok style structure that looks like this. But yeah, I'm actually in Daegu. No, this is one of my favorite Starbucks in the world because it is actually built like a historical Hanok instead of like a soulless modern cafe, and they actually have Jeju green tea. Like beautiful. Look at those beautiful big leaves. Look at how green. Yeah, love it. I hadn't connected that it'd also be almost following the UV index guidelines. Yeah, Holly, exactly. Like the Mediterranean lifestyle historically has always followed the UV index guidelines. They might not have, they didn't call it the UV index, but it basically was. Well, hell, I just spilled all of my needles all over my lap. Darn it.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's my nightmare.
It's your nightmare. They're needles, not pins. Oh, Jinil Kim. Welcome to my little medieval French corner of Daegu, South Korea. Okay, so I have pinned the cuffs together like so, and now I'm just going to actually use thread to baste them together. Basting is the process of using long running stitches in thread to then secure the pieces of fabric together, and then we'll go back with tighter stitches to actually put the proper seams in, and then we remove the basting stitches. Yeah. Is it unbelievable though, Jin? Yeah. So, Aaron, why do you all do it in this? Are you still doing it in the peak of the summer, basically because that's when school gets out? That's when school break is, instead of doing it at a different time of year, a less offensive season, like spring or autumn. In the U.S., we have a lot of teachers doing medieval living history. Yeah. What was that?
Hi, Hess.
Oh, is Haas there? Haas, good morning. Welcome to Daegu. Welcome to my favorite little Starbucks. My favorite not so little Starbucks.
Villa Vendetta just.
Oh, Villa, welcome. Lovely to see you. Buenos dias, mija. I'm in Daegu, South Korea at the moment, just working on the silk velvet cuffs for a new medieval dress. So yeah. And I'm planning to go to Thailand in a couple of weeks. Going to go spend a week or two in Thailand exploring the amazing food there and some of the historic sites, hoping to get back up to Chiang Mai and to Ayutthaya, the historic capital of Siam. Oh, thank you, Faye. Yeah. So this necklace. This is a replica of a jewel owned by Beatrice d'Este. She's depicted with this actually pinned to her fillet in a profile depiction of her. And this is a replica by Armor and Castings. So it looks gorgeous, and it is gorgeous. They did an amazing look at the detail that they did in making the mold for this. But it's really not that expensive. So if you're interested in this kind of beautiful replica jewelry, very good prices, all handmade by Ukrainian artists. Armorandcastings.com, ARMOUR and castings.com. And if you use Contessa 10, then you'll get an extra 10% off. These cuffs are just not lining up the way I would hope they would. I don't know why. They're being very stubborn. I'm going to try again. Could be I'm not matching the right cuff up with the right cuff. Could also be I'm just going to have to not care that some of the edges don't line up perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't pay to be overly fastidious. So let's see. We have my condottiero returned from his adventures with way more books than he probably should have purchased.
One or two.
And so he just returned, so we shall be doing a video cataloging, we're doing photo cataloging of all these books. There's some really great finds in there that are going to be of great interest to many of you, I'm pretty certain. So stay tuned for that.
I think my favorite is the legal battle for the marriage.
Yeah, there was
Susanna and Giovanni.
Susanna and Giovanni. Giovanni, not Giovanni. Giovanni.
So,
Yeah, Giovanni. There's a book that is about a secret marriage that happened in Florence, and these are the ones that match up. That in which the husband tried to claim that they weren't really married, and so there was a legal battle, back and forth, in which she submitted evidence after evidence after evidence that they were, and those documents are actually preserved in the archives in Florence, and this historian was actually looking for something else in the archives, and he kept tripping across episodes from this legal battle. And so eventually he just decided to give in to what fate was doing, follow where Fortuna was leading him, and he wrote a book about it. It's not a long book, but it's actually one of these, a case of history of normal people, which of course history is very often these days great man history, so we don't hear about regular people very often. This book is regular people history, literally as regular as you can get, to the point of being soap operatic. So I'm very excited to read that, because it actually cites a lot of the documents from the court cases in which Giovanna, the wife in question, makes her case. And it's very often in Florence jurisprudence in the Middle Ages and Renaissance that women are often the ones bringing suits and going to court and negotiating with the city and dealing with officers and running the estate. This image of the docile medieval or Renaissance European woman is a misconception in the extreme. Yes, women did not have the same legal rights that they have now in Europe, but that doesn't mean that they didn't work around the system that was enforced upon them to give themselves the maximum power that they could possibly have, right? So, yeah, I'm very excited to read about that. And once I get into it, if I find there are good passages that'll work for our medieval story time, then I'll be doing some readings in medieval story time as well. Yep. Juan, gracias. So this is a kerchief. This headdress, this hat, as you call it, this head covering, is called a couvre-chef or a coverchef or a kerchief, and about 15 other spellings of that word in medieval English. It's called a couvre-chef in French, and this is the style that was basically worn by women. It was a practical style, not a fashion garment, that was worn by women from roughly 1450 until for decades and decades and decades after that. In fact, you can still see versions of this being worn in, say, the Low Countries in the 17th century. And that's why it's kind of become traditional costume in the Netherlands now. But in the Middle Ages, it wasn't traditional costume, and it wasn't just Flemish or Dutch. It was France, Flanders, the Netherlands, England. So yeah, it was a garment that lots of women wore because it's very practical. Stays on the head really nice. It covers the hair. It frames the face adorably. So what's not to love about this? And let me tell you, what's lovely about this particular kerchief is that I can just braid my hair, tie them into a knot on the braids into a knot on the back of my head, put this on, and I don't have to worry about how my hair looks. This is the ultimate bad hair day remedy, right? This takes me 10 seconds to put on. It's way faster than actually doing anything productive with my hair. Let me see. Which Robin Hood? Oh, wait, was there a question? Is this the Robin Hood era? Oh, yeah, which Robin Hood? That's a good question. So I think Robin Hood doesn't have an era, contrary to popular belief. The Robin Hood legends continue to be told and transformed all throughout the Middle Ages. So yeah, which Robin Hood? Obviously, for some of the Robin Hood legends, it's very clear that he's supposed to be living in the time of Richard I of England or John I of England. But the reality is that, I need to repin this, the reality is that he's a legend. So which Robin Hood era? This is 15th century. I am solidly 15th century, this ensemble with this headdress and this style kirtle. 1450 to maybe 1485-ish. Probably you start to see the kirtle change at that point.
The Hollywood one?
Yeah, the Hollywood one. Oh, goodness. Let me see. Oh, yeah, head covering. So if you're interested in the topic of head coverings in the Middle Ages, I have a whole video on the topic. It's not long. It's like 15 minutes long. It's short. I have a fun video essay on the topic of medieval headwear for men and women. I provide pictures of lots of originals that have actually been preserved from the Middle Ages, along with some art. And I provide all kinds of interesting details about head coverings and why men and women wore them in the Middle Ages. So if you're interested after this live stream, feel free to check that out here on this channel. But yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons that men and women covered their hair was for in the winter, it gives you extra insulation against the cold. There is, in most places in medieval Europe, there isn't central heating. Central heating is not a thing. So, even when you're inside, it's not necessarily the warmest. And if you're outside, it's in the winter, it's not the warmest. But this kind of head covering also provides, because it's white and it's linen, when it's hot out, this actually insulates me against the heat of the sun because it keeps the sun from beating down directly on my dark hair and making my head hot. And because of evaporative cooling, if I sweat, then the sweat actually is whisked away because linen, right, really good at wicking moisture away from my skin, and then it evaporates and it takes the heat that has gone with the moisture with it. So this is practical for both, because it's winter right now here in Daegu, and wearing this, I'm actually pretty comfy. I don't need another hat to not be cold. But in the summer, by the same token, it keeps me from being too hot. Also, it means that my hair stays clean because, and this applies definitely in modern city life as well, because modern cities are dirty. Like there's brake dust and rubber dust and pollution and real dust, and dirt dust. Right, so wearing this helps keep my hair clean as well. And in the Middle Ages, that definitely would have applied, but it wouldn't have been the nasty chemical dust that we have now. It would have been ashes. There would have been a lot of soot in the air from fire smoke. There would have been some dust and dirt, especially if you're outside, and especially if it's dry. Horses and animals, when they are walking along the roads, they will kick up a lot of dust. So, wearing something like this for men and women keeps your hair clean and makes it so that you don't have to wash it as often if you don't want it to be actually physically dirty. So yeah, but then of course there's the fashion aspect, right? If you live in a culture that actually has hats and wears hats, then there's all kinds of cool things you can do, like fun arrangements, fun ways to drape fabric, fun layering that you can achieve. You can express your personality through your headwear. So all across medieval Europe, it evolves. It's not the same style of headdress from one era, from one decade to the next in some cases, or one part of a century to the next. Even that evolves, even in the Middle Ages. Yeah. What about the bare chest, though? Aren't you cold? I'm not cold right now. For the bare chest, women actually, there is a garment you can put on that literally covers just the bare chest part, so that you're not adding bulk in other places. And it's called a gorgière in French. It's called, one of the things it's called in Italian is a colletto. I just learned the actual medieval English word for it the other day, and I've already, damn it, I'm sorry, I forgot what the actual medieval English word. Some people call it a partlet, but that's not the medieval English word. They weren't called that in 15th century English. But it's basically, in the winter, it's made out of, usually made out of, for the wealthy, made out of velvet, lined in fur, or wool lined in fur, and it covers all the way up to here, and it goes literally just to here. For summertime, they actually have these really fine silk or super fine linen layers, the exact same thing that covers just this part and fills it in. It's almost like a nod at modesty. But yeah, so if you are cold, there are options for covering just this part up. And the idea was that you wanted your garments to be modular. You wanted to be able to adjust for temperatures without necessarily having to have different garments. So one of the ways in which they could adjust a garment, so it could be the same gown for summer or winter, but the way they would adjust it is by adding a fur lining or removing the fur lining. So fur linings were added in for the cold months, and then when it started to get warm again, they would actually be removed. The lining would be removed, but you could just keep wearing the gown for the summer. But the fur trim would stay, so you'd still have the fur collar, the fur trim around the hem, whatever. That would be on this top. That's not part of the fur lining. But we know they actually did this because we have records of it. We've actually found in death inventories, when they go through the chests of garments belonging to men and women, they actually encountered entire fur linings for a garment, but the garment wasn't with the fur lining. The lining was separate. So this was a practice to actually just pull out the fur lining when it got too hot, and that's what furriers. A furrier's job was to not just to actually take the furs, process them into a garment shape, and then actually install them into the garment. That was not the tailor's job, that was the furrier's job. Did we have glass windows in the 15th century? Yes, but not everyone, and not many people. There were glass windows in the 15th century in Europe, but they were a super luxury, and they were not like the glass windows we know. They weren't thin panes of glass covering this massive space. They would have been composite windows made out of a lot of smaller pieces of glass. But most people in the 15th century did not have glass windows. In fact, we have records in the 15th century, say the Duke of Norfolk, in the 1460s and 1470s, is having glass windows added to his properties. It's an expense. They actually mention it as, such and such amount of money to the glazier for glazing the windows of this estate. So even the Duke of Norfolk, one of the most powerful peers of England in the 15th century, is just getting around to adding glass windows to his estates in the 15th century. So most people did not have glass windows. Now, what did they use instead? Wooden shutters is one thing. In Italy, they often used waxed parchment. Actually, waxed vellum would be put over the windows if they wanted to help keep the air out. So you would combine the wooden shutters with the wax parchment, especially if you wanted to be able to open up the windows for light. So the wax parchment will still let the light in, but it will keep the cold air out. There are actually lots of options that aren't glass. It's just that we in the modern world can't imagine, in the West, I suppose, in the developed world, the rich world, we can't imagine any other way. So yes, the question of were there whatever in the Middle Ages is very often yes, but not like we think of it, and not to the extent we think of it. For instance, most of you probably assume that everyone had fireplaces in the Middle Ages, like we would understand it, fireplaces and chimneys, right? Chimneys are an invention in Europe in the 12th century, and most people don't get chimneys until the 17th century. Most homes don't have chimneys. They have a hole in the roof, not a chimney. Chimney pieces were an expensive luxury. And again, also in the 15th century, we have records from people like the Duke of Norfolk, who is having chimneys added to his properties. Right? These are castles, these are manor houses, these are expensive living spaces. And even still, in the 15th century, they're still just finally getting chimney pieces added to them. So yeah, the question of did they have it is usually yes, but. Okay, what was the question from Haas?
You have nice European tapestries. Did they have those in Asia, China, Japan?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. So often, if you look at many of my other live streams, I have a tapestry in my background. Those are real tapestries, by the way, not CGI or whatever. The question
My
was,
fake one.
or what?
Or my fake one.
The fake ones, right? They're tapestries. But the question was, did they have decorative wall hangings in other parts of the world, basically? So I want to clarify that a tapestry is a weave. It's not necessarily, doesn't mean it's a wall hanging. You can have tapestry wall hangings, but not all tapestries were made into wall hangings. There were tapestry carpets, for instance. Heraldic tapestry carpets, no less. The Duke of Burgundy had many, and they got sacked at the Battle of Granson and Nancy when he lost those two battles tragically and the last one fatally. So tapestry is a weave. A wall hanging is anything that is on a wall, any fabric thing, textile thing, that is on a wall that is decorative, right? So a tapestry is a kind of wall hanging, but not all wall hangings are tapestries. So did they have them in Asia? And did they have them in Korea, for instance? I have not seen evidence of wall hangings. The closest... Yeah, they did screens. Screens have been popular. Folding screens that are either embroidered or painted or calligraphed have been around in Asia for a while, as far as I know. China, Korea, Japan. They did start in the end of the 19th century. You start seeing patchwork wall hangings in Korea, but I haven't seen much evidence of that from much earlier. But part of the problem is that countries like Korea, have a dearth of material culture that has survived if it was soft. Because of just how often things burnt down here. The Japanese burnt them down, the Mongols burnt them down, the Qing burnt them down, the Ming burnt them down, and the lightning burnt it down. Candles burnt it down, oil lamps burnt it down, right? So a lot of things have just kind of consistently gone up in flames. So sometimes it can be hard to tell what there may have been, because it also means we don't have a lot of visual representation of, say, interior spaces in Korea for most of Korea's history, unfortunately. Yeah, that is a good question. But most cultures develop some kind of cloth wall hanging, even if it's just literally draping fabric. Just plain, beautiful fabric, draping fabric to create a beautiful space. Korea did have in the royal palaces anyway, they did have what we would think of as like rolling screens that roll up and down. Not quite the same though. Okay, I see I may have missed some questions. Big smoke. You realize that I, as the kind of American that I am, medieval history is also my history. You know that, right? Because my ancestors, the ones who settled in America, all of them come from Europe, right? Which means that my the history of my history is also the Middle Ages. Yeah, right. So it's not curious that we're interested in it, because that's our history, right? Like why shouldn't that interest me? It's where I come from. It's interesting to know how my ancestors lived. This weird idea Europeans have about Americans not somehow also being European, especially European Americans who look like me. Big smoke. We take our history for granted in Europe. I lived it so full.
That's also true.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, playing soccer in the middle of ruins, like, I'm bouncing this ball off of a freaking 1,000-year-old wall. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, so Big Smoke, I would say that about as many Europeans care about their history as Americans care about theirs. But I mean, let me be full disclosure. I lived in Germany for 12 years. I studied in France and in Germany and in Spain. I speak a lot of European languages. So, I lived a large chunk of my life in Europe. And so I have a lot of friends from all over Europe. My friends that were all reenactors, so of course they care about their history. But I will say that when I meet other Europeans out and about traveling, I would agree with you. They're not necessarily as interested in their own history as I am. But like I said, European history is my history also. And I'm definitely more interested in the older parts of my history than the more recent parts, although I've had to become more interested in the more recent parts for reasons recently. Okay, other question. What time zone is this? I'm American living in Europe, and I assumed everyone back home is in bed. Marcus in France. I am American currently visiting long term in South Korea. Yeah, so I'm in Seoul Standard Time. I think that's GMZ +9, actually. Yeah. Let me see. Are they called different tapestries or carpets? Wow, okay. Oh, goodness, I'm way behind on the question. Wow, imagine the Vikings on caffeine. It's a scary thought. Ben Bops and fondue, it's a very scary thought. What's the history of coffee? Who made it? English Vikings. Oh, coffee comes from Ethiopia. Coffee comes from Ethiopia, and there's a fun apocryphal story about the origins of coffee. And I call it apocryphal because there's no documentation for it, but the origin story, the origin myth of coffee as a beverage is that there was a shepherd whose goats went missing while he was pasturing them, or while he was grazing them out in the mountain meadow. And he eventually found them in a clearing, and they were gambling about and jumping and acting strangely, and they were behaving in such a way with so much energy and so much vim and vigor that it made him nervous. And so he noticed that they had been chewing on these beans, these berries, they were berries, right, on these berries. And so he picked some of the berries and he took the goats to a local monastery, and they thought that the goats were possessed. And so they tossed the beans into the fire, the berries into the fire to, doing what you do with possessed things and things that are of the devil, I guess. And then the berries started smelling really good as they roasted in the flames. So the legend goes that they fished them out of the coals and they submerged them in a cup of water to, a vessel of water to stop them from burning. And then thus coffee was born, right? It's an apocryphal tale. I don't know if that's true. It sounds like it could be, though. But it's really, what's the thing that's always fascinated me, and I wanted to look into this more, is why it took coffee so long to make it beyond Ethiopia, despite these really tight trade routes, these frequently plied trade routes all across Africa and Asia in that era. It's odd to me that coffee stayed as local as it did for as long as it did, because it's not until like 800 years later that coffee makes it out of Ethiopia into Yemen. And then from Yemen, it makes its way up into the Ottoman Empire. And then from there, it ends up in Vienna. And, but it takes hundreds of years to get from Ethiopia to Austria, when like everything else takes way less time to get around. So I have not examined. If you all know why it took so long for coffee to make it out of Ethiopia, let me know. I'd be interested. I've been curious, and I just never get around to actually looking it up every time I have this conversation about coffee's origins. So yeah, that's. But a lot of people, there's some historians who theorize that the Enlightenment in Europe is all thanks to coffee and tea. Because thanks to coffee and tea, people had a recreational beverage that stimulated their brains instead of made them groggy. And so people actually in places where coffee and tea were consumed started exchanging ideas more vigorously and started thinking more energetically. I don't know if it makes sense as a theory, but I haven't dove into it too much. But that is a theory amongst historians, that we have the Enlightenment in Europe. We have coffee and tea to thank for the Enlightenment, such as it was, such as it was. But it's very hard to imagine the world now without coffee, huh? Let me see. Lance Kirk lady. Actually, Lance Kirk lady, I wasn't calling Europeans Europeans. Someone from Europe referred to themselves as European. And many of my friends from Europe call themselves European. So that's not an Americanism. You might not want to speak for the whole continent because you don't represent the whole continent. Just saying. Yeah. And you don't know everyone on the continent. Whereas I have friends scattered all over the European Union. And, people who are pro-EU tend to refer to themselves as European, but, whatever, man. Context is everything. The encaffeinement, yeah. Yeah, I'm a tea junkie too. I'm drinking, this is Jeju green tea. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that gorgeous? I love Jeju green tea. It's so good. Yeah, so the origin, the way that tea, it's funny, tea's origin story is also fun because the first time tea made it to a European royal court, it was discarded, even though it was like a really precious good commodity. It was discarded because they said, and I quote, "Why would we need this pile of dead leaves?" Yeah. Yeah, the encaffeinate. Haas says it's because you have to develop a taste for coffee. That's why it would take time to travel to different parts of the world. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, that thought did occur to me too. That coffee is pretty bitter, actually. So yeah. In fact, I had to develop a taste for tea. I developed a taste for tea while I was living in Spain or for coffee, not tea, for coffee. I developed a taste for coffee while I was living in Spain because everyone drank coffee. It was the social beverage of choice. So if we would go out together to a cafe, it would feel really odd to just sit there nursing a bottle of spring water. So instead it was, I started with the least coffee-like coffee, a manchada. It's like 10% coffee and 90% hot milk. And then gradually reduced, worked my way down to unsweetened espresso and unsweetened Turkish coffee. Love unsweetened Turkish coffee. Yeah, whenever I go to Turkey and I go to a coffee bar and I ask them to make me, a coffee with no sugar, they look at me askance. Like, really? No sugar? Really? No sugar. Thank you. I'm good. That's why the Spanish speak so fast. Yeah. So that's when I developed my taste for coffee. I developed my taste for tea also for similar reasons because I was dating someone whose mother was Scottish, and so we would go to visit, and I wanted to be liked. I wanted approval. I wanted parental approval. So I started drinking tea with her, and same thing. I started there with tea with sugar and cream, and then over the years I have worked my way down to tea, just tea. Mom started me on coffee at like 9. Fresh ground Viennese coffee. Nice. Way to get.
So thank you to Sherry.
Thank you to who? Sherry? Oh, Sherry, thank you for joining us. I hope. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and make sure you click on all, and that will actually let you know when I go live. Yeah, thank you for joining. Welcome to the community. I stream at a variety of times, so I will likely be on when you're actually awake. Let me see. The Turkish and espresso are the first coffees I enjoyed. Black, still need cream for my French press. Yeah, Turkish coffee is such a special delight. I adore Turkish coffee so much, especially the cardamom, so good, and it's so creamy without having cream in it. It's just, you all might be horrified when I tell you this. I actually enjoy eating the coffee grounds from the bottom of my Turkish coffees. Yeah, that's me. That's me eating the grounds. That's why I'm so short and my ADHD went undiagnosed so long. Oh, Villa. The history of tea. Who made tea? So tea actually also has an interesting origin. It actually didn't start off as a drink at all. It started off as a food in Myanmar. Some people, you might know it as Burma. Yeah.
No, it was southern China.
Burma.
In the Assam region. And they chew the leaves.
No, that was a separate thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. In Myanmar, it started off as not a beverage but a food. They would actually eat it as a fermented salad, and so it didn't actually start as a drink at all. And then there were some people in certain regions in the Assam region who would chew it, who would chew the tea leaves like a stimulant. And so eventually someone got, and I'm trying to remember, it was in China where they got the bright idea to actually put the leaves in water, and steep it and drink it. But the interesting thing about tea is that what got it so widespread in Asia is actually the spread of Buddha as a beverage, is Buddhism. So Buddhism comes along and it observes, but the Buddhist monks observed that alcohol, which was the social beverage of that time, so we're talking of 2,000 years ago, Buddhist monks who observed that alcohol led to undesirable outcomes, violence and fighting. And so Buddhism basically forbade, is too strong a word, discouraged the consumption of alcohol and encouraged the consumption of tea. So as Buddhism spread, tea drinking culture spread with it. And that is true. It is Buddhist monks who brought tea to Korea. The oldest tea plant, or the oldest areas where tea was grown, are around Buddhist 6th and 7th century Buddhist monasteries here in Korea. So, you have Buddhism to thank for the spread of tea as a beverage. And apparently we also have Buddhism to thank for soy sauce and tofu, because early Buddhists especially were very big on full vegetarianism, which means that fish sauce was right out as a seasoning, because fish sauce is made from fermented fish guts. So you can't be eating animal products under very stringent versions of Buddhism, and so the soy sauce was invented as a way to season your food. So you can kind of tell in Asia, where fish sauce is still a thing, Buddhism wasn't as big and as influential as in parts of Asia where soy sauce is now the seasoning sauce of choice. It's fascinating how religion can impact daily life on such a profound level, even if people aren't necessarily practitioners of that religion. Oh, Rafa, thank you. Welcome to my live stream. Dr. Kartik, I am currently in Daegu, South Korea, but I'm originally from the United States. But I haven't lived much of my life there at this point. I've lived more of my life outside the U.S. than inside the U.S. I was born and raised in the great state of Delaware, for those of you who are familiar with American geography. And if you are not familiar with Delaware, that's okay. No hard feelings on my part. It's the second smallest state, flies very much under the radar in every way, shape, and form. It's a hidden gem of the United States, I would say. But I'm currently in Daegu, South Korea, actually at a Starbucks, even though you might not believe it looking at this building.
Come to Istanbul. We were just in Istanbul.
Yeah, we were just, Murat, we were just in Istanbul. I've actually been to Istanbul many times. We were just there in October. We were in Istanbul for the 2 days of one of the big Palestine-Gaza protests. And we didn't know about that, and we got stuck in it in the middle of this massive demonstration. Wow, yeah. No, I love Istanbul. The only thing that's getting really intense about Istanbul is how crowded it is these days. Istanbul is crazy crowded. It's more crowded than I ever remember it being. But I love Turkey. I love Turkish culture. I love Turkish history. I love Turkish food. Yeah, Turkey's wonderful. We love Turkey. Turkish people, so friendly, so friendly. We've had good experiences everywhere we went with the local Turks, haven't we, Handsome? Yep. Yep. We love our Turkish friends. You know, the history of what is now Turkey, of course, spans back thousands of years, and it's such a crossroads of culture, and so many ideas and so many peoples have transited through that part of the world. Beautiful fashions, beautiful architecture, beautiful music, beautiful poetry. I love calligraphy, Turkish calligraphy, sacred calligraphy, so beautiful. Oh, Murat, appreciate that. Thank you for that invitation. Dr. Kartik, I have been to India, but just southern India, Kerala. I am really hoping to get back though this year at some point. I do want to get up into the northern parts of India. I want to get outside of the cities. I want to get into the country where the air is fresher, where real people live. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Travel is one of the things I do. For those who are wondering, I have a travel channel, Travels with the Creative Contessa. And one of the reasons I love traveling is I love learning about the history in other parts of the world. And I love experiencing the culture, and it's the velvet. I love
Covered in velvet.
I love experiencing the culture of other peoples, both historic and modern culture. I love tasting the food. I love seeing how people really live their lives. Right? I don't really generally enjoy the full tourist experience. I prefer to have a local friend and for them to show me what life is really like. I grew up reading National Geographic, and I think that primed me to want to do that version of travel. So, yeah, getting back to India and exploring the much less touristed parts of India is very interesting to me. I love cooking, I love food, so I want to actually, learn how to cook using the traditional implements and the slow cooking method. I'm a big fan of slow cooking, of not rushing, of not using appliances, but, I wished all Americans were like you and open-minded. Rafa, so do I. I mean, not they have to be like me exactly, but yeah, I wish I had a unique upbringing. I come from a very unique family, unique going back generations. I realized the more I hear about stories about my grandparents, all of my grandparents and my great-grandparents, I realized that I was always destined to be the way I am, basically. Yeah, Dr. Kartik, I definitely want to get up into northern India. That's big on my list of things to do. Yeah, very much so. He says on my website that I teach Indian cooking. Yeah, because one of the things I do when I travel is I take cooking classes in the places I go. So, Indian food. The first time I had Indian food was when I was 19 and I was at university. I went to the University of Delaware, and there was a massive Indian population of Indian students at my university because we have a big engineering school. There were a lot of Indians studying engineering there. And actually one of my apartment mates was from India, and so she actually taught me how to make some of her family recipes. And so once I tried all Indian food, there was no going back. When I was an undergrad at the University of Delaware, I would go to the local Indian restaurant every day for lunch and eat because the food was, oh my God, yeah. So yeah, I think I don't necessarily enjoy, so I like spices in terms of flavors, like cinnamon and nutmeg and kubeb and cumin and anchor and coriander, those saffron. I like spices. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of hot spice, but even Indian food doesn't have to be hot spicy. Something a lot of people don't realize is that cuisine in Asia, even though most people now associate it heavily with peppers, with chili peppers, right? Chili peppers are a really recent addition to Eurasian cuisine. Chili peppers were part of the Columbian Exchange. They were brought back by the conquistadores from the New World, from the Americas, right? So peppers don't even get to India until the 16th century, and they don't start making an appearance. I have cookbooks from the Mughal court from the 16th and 17th century. Chili peppers are not mentioned anywhere in them. They don't get to Korea until the 18th century, but even still, gochujang chili peppers in Korea don't become a regular part of Korean cuisine until the 20th century. So even though now we could hardly imagine all of these Asian cuisines without chili peppers, until very recently, none of them had chili peppers. So I actually prefer the more historical versions of those recipes because you're right, I don't enjoy food that makes my mouth hurt a lot. I do like enough chili pepper to add dimension, but I don't want pain to be the primary flavor of my food. Yeah, but I certainly have a higher, I definitely have a higher spice tolerance than your average person who looks like this. Yeah. Let me see. I have the great misfortune of not being able to experience a lot of cuisines because I'm allergic to both legumes and rice. So please eat more on my behalf. Oh, Holly, I am so sorry to hear that. Legumes and rice. I mean, happily though, there are a lot of cuisines that actually could get around legumes. But yeah, especially if depending on how allergic you are, I could see how it could be dangerous possibly, especially if you can't communicate clearly about what is in your food. I have a friend who is deadly allergic to lilies, and onions are lilies, garlic are lilies, and if she eats anything with even the tiniest bit of a lily in it, so I'm talking chicken stock that has spices, and one of the spices is garlic, her intestines start bleeding. So yeah, I understand that depending on how allergic you are, it can be dangerous to just go out and try things. Like there was the whole Orientalism over in Europe with trade with Asian countries would have looked at having European. Okay, let me see. Would Asian countries have looked at having European items as a flex? Absolutely, we know. So the Silk Road was a two-way street. The so-called Silk Road, the Silk Roads, it was a two-way street. There was an exchange of goods. It wasn't just a one-way flow of goods. There wasn't a trade deficit, as it were. Now, for a lot of the Silk Road, the goods that were being traded eastward were slaves. First millennium, it was the thing, what the people in the western half of the Eurasian continent were trading for things from the eastern half was slaves. European slaves were absolutely in high demand, and it was definitely looked on as a flex. If you had a pretty, a pretty woman from what is now the Ukraine or the Czech Republic or Scandinavia in your household in Asia or in the Mongol court, for instance. But in the earlier part, when the Eastern Roman Empire was still a powerful entity and still producing beautiful goods, glassware, for instance, was a highly valuable item. Glass that was blown in Constantinople, in what is now Turkey, or even as far as Italy. Because we actually have tombs here in Korea, for instance, from the 5th and 6th century in which perfectly preserved glasses, drinking vessels, that were manufactured in the Eastern Roman Empire have been found. So yeah, for certain, it was looked on as a flex if you had an item like that. But on the other hand, by sort of the end of the first millennium and the beginning of the second millennium, we have Arab writers who are writing things and are saying things like, they'll do these texts of geography that talk about all the peoples of the world. And when they get to Europe, they kind of say, well, there are people who live here, but they're not really worth talking about. Now, who knows how much of that is cultural bias? But yeah, for certain, having slaves from Europe was looked on favorably in the first millennium. Now that being said, by the 15th century, things are shifting. So by the 15th century, for instance, in the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman court is importing items heavily from Europe. They're importing painters. They're hiring painters to come and paint themselves and members of the royal family, the imperial family. They're buying silks from Florence, from Italy, and making their royal garments out of them. So by the 15th and 16th century, it starts in Asia. It definitely starts looking like a flex if you have items from Europe, and that's in the Ottoman Empire. And I know that's true in India as well. There were items in the Mughal court there were items that were being imported from the East that were looked on as a flex. But there's kind of this period where Europe is regarded as the redheaded stepchild of Eurasia, so to say, as we say in America. That was Ryan Gifford, in case you all were wondering. Arabs brought Persian culture, art, and science to Europe. Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who haven't lived in Spain or studied Spanish history, you might be surprised to know how influential Islamic culture is, thanks to its very in-depth and long-term presence in Spain. People often ask me if I could travel back in time, where I might want to go, and honestly, one of the places I would want to go is Caliphate era Cordoba, right? This splendid court, magnificent palaces, or to the Alhambra, right? Like to the Alhambra in the first millennium, in the golden era of Islam on the Spanish Peninsula. How wonderful that must have been. The cities were clean, they had amazing infrastructure, they had sewage, they had running water, beautiful architecture carved out of beautiful stone. The quality of living was pretty high for everyone. Very safe. The cities were pretty safe. Yeah. So if I were going to travel back in time, that's probably where I'd actually want to go. Other places that might be nice to go would be nice to go only if I had a level 4 biohazmat suit, or if I had an enchantment that would keep me safe. Oh, who's Ryan Gifford? Ryan Gifford is my condottiero. This is my husband. Oh, yeah, Villa got it. Okay. Yeah, Villa Vendetta says, I hate that spices is an acceptable level of ingredients. Yeah, it's bullshit. That spices is allowed as an ingredient is horseshit. It's absolute garbage. The number of things that food producers can hide under that heading is frankly unconscionable. Frederick, Maryland, Dairy Queen. Yeah, Joseph, you remember. Oh, wait. Yes, I did answer that. Yeah.
I was away.
Yeah. Joseph, welcome back. You remembered. He remembers me talking about the Frederick, Maryland Dairy Queen being one of my stopping points on my way to or from Penzing. Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back again this July, and then in August, 2 weeks later. I'm actually thinking of trying actually to schedule Creative Contessa meetups whenever I travel in the world for people who happen to be in the area. So if you're interested in a Creative Contessa meetup, and it's not a paid thing or anything, it's just like I find a cafe and we all get together and we can chat in person, right? I'm going to try to schedule that. So keep my eye on I can speak English. Keep an eye on my community posts, and I will post the ones that I'll do. I'll try to get going for Thailand, for instance. We're hoping to get up to Chiang Mai, so we'll do one in Chiang Mai for certain, and we're definitely going to be spending some time in Bangkok, so we will also then be posting about our participation there. So if you're in Chiang Mai or Bangkok, let me know, and hopefully we can get together and just chat and have a good time.
He gave me another.
Let me see. My one and only allergy is alternative sugars. Oh yeah, so Shellback Bow, alternative sugars. Do you mean like the synthetic chemical ones, such as saccharin or aspartame or sucralose? Yeah, a lot of people should. I think more people are sensitive to those than actually realize it. Honestly, I think that's a big problem. Oh goodness. Okay. So this is what happens when I get talking.
Did you sew the whole thing up?
No, this is not the best seam I've ever made in my life. Mostly the synthetics, yeah. So I'll be honest, no one should eat those synthetic sweeteners. We don't have the digestive system that can actually truly handle them. They're really toxic to our microbiota. So even if you don't have an immediately obvious allergic reaction, you're going to have a long-term reaction and it's going to suck. So yeah, no one should eat them. Luke Fowler says, where are you from? Well, Luke, that is an interesting and not necessarily easy to answer question. I am originally from the great state of Delaware in the United States of America. I am currently, however, in Daegu, South Korea. Yeah. Um, Ivan, it's go sleep. Why? It's literally 6 p.m.
6:30.
6:30. It's not bedtime here, dude. Uh, if you don't want to watch, just don't watch, man. You don't need to be here. Yeah. New Orleans, New Orleans. The Big Easy. Nice. It's really late there right now. It's really late. It's either really late or really early, depending on how you look at your day. So Luke, are you still awake or are you just now freshly awake? Shellback Bo says that the synthetic sweeteners causes his esophagus to stay open. And then I heard Bert, oh, that is unfortunate. Yeah. I think more people than just you suffer from that and they just haven't put two and two together. Yeah, exactly, Luke. So are you just waking up or are you still awake? Are you a night owl by nature? Is anyone else working on anything out there? Oh, Aaron, if you're still there and you're working on Roman kit, I was wondering, I know you're probably busy sewing, so don't feel the need to answer if you can't get to it. But, you're making your garments out of linen or like a summer weight wool? Are you doing the full layers? What kind of Roman stuff are you making? Are hot liquids really better for your health? That's a good question. Depends on who you ask. I haven't actually looked into it myself. I do know that there are a lot of people who say it's better to drink a hot liquid because then your body doesn't have to fight to maintain homeostasis in quite the same degree as if you drink cold liquids. I haven't actually looked into the science behind that, however. So, nope, can't actually tell you. That does seem like something I should know, though. I don't know why I've never looked into that in more depth. Probably because I don't care and I'm just going to keep drinking the way I am. Okay, so I am working on, it's inside out right now. This is basically a lining for a sleeve cuff. Let me show you kind of, oh, I can't do that because this is what it looks like on the outside. Right, so this is basically going to be over my hand like that on the sleeve, attached to the sleeve of what's called a Burgundian gown in historical circles, right? And so first I'm sewing the cuffs together, and then they will get, I'll finish the edges. Right, I'll turn all the edges down and whip stitch them down and finish them. And then I will whip stitch this into the sleeve, and it'll actually be on the inside of the sleeve. And then when if I want to turn the sleeve back and cuff it, then this is what you'll see. This nice, pretty velvet. And this is actually silk velvet, not cotton velvet. So that's why it has that shine, but it's also not ridiculously shiny because it's not synthetic. So the pile is actually silk. The backing is not silk. And actually, 100% silk velvet sucks. It sucks. I hate 100% silk velvet. It sucks because if the ground is also silk, then it is a pain in the ass to work with. Whereas, if the ground is made of a much less slippery, much more bodied fabric like cotton or linen, then yeah, it's much easier to work with. So that is what I'm working on right now. And I think I'm going to have to redo this. I think I'm going to have to redo this seam because I'm not super happy with how that looks. I don't know. I'll turn it inside out and see how I feel about it. Let's see if I can make the other one straighter. I'll actually mark it this time instead of just eyeing it. Let me see. How often was nettle used to make fabric or thread? I know it's possible to do it, and nettle leaves are used in food. Yeah. So Villa Vendetta, that's a great question. How often is nettle used to make cloth? Nettle cloth was used in medieval Europe, not as much as one might like, but it was a thing. Here in Korea, it's a luxury fabric. Nettle cloth is called rami. For those who are wondering what rami is, if you've ever seen rami in your fiber content, rami is nettle cloth. It is a natural fiber like linen, but it is superior to linen. I actually have multiple rami garments, hanbok, historical Korean garments made out of rami. And it is actually, you can get a much nicer shine out of it, and you can weave it more finely than linen. So in Korea, rami, very common fabric. It's very expensive, especially if you have stuff, rami that's made in Korea, not in China. Historically, rami has been used in Asia for thousands of years. We have textile finds from the first millennium BC. E. So, yeah, nettle cloth highly used. Linen doesn't exist here in Asia. It's not. It doesn't grow here. It's not a natural plant here. Instead, they have nettle cloth and cotton. But cotton is an import, whereas nettle cloth is actually local and native. Harshit or Harshit Ayadav. Where does your name break up? Harshit Ayadav or Harshita Yadav? I apologize for not knowing. Otherwise, welcome. Thank you for joining us from Korea. Villa says, "Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's so cool. I've been thinking of trying to make some, as English nettles are everywhere, literally." Yeah, the process, as far as I've seen nettle cloth being made, and as far as I know, as far as I can tell, the process is very similar to making linen because it's a grass. It's a grass, just like linen. It's a grass, and so you put it through the same process of retting, and they use their. But maybe you don't want to do it completely the way they do it traditionally because traditionally his nettle cloth made by hand, you like run the strands through your teeth to refine them. You get a groove in your teeth. The sensitivity that would cause. I just don't want to think too hard about it. I look like a Trump supporter? Oh no, that is not me. No. I'm just going to tell you all right now, if you're Trump supporters, this is not the channel for you. I'm currently dressed as a 15th century noblewoman in what I would call Lululemon casual 15th century Lululemon. Not a Trump supporter. Definitely not. Jesus. Nope. And if you get me started, I will never stop talking about my frustrations at the current situation. So let's go back to the topic of medieval material culture, shall we? Aria. Okay, Aria, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining us. Oh, Villa, I'm so sorry. I'm confident, Villa. I'm confident there are ways to make nettle cloth without ruining your teeth. You just have to use a different tool than your teeth, probably.
New indications coming through. You can just regrow your teeth and then ruin them making nettle again.
Oh, Villa. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. There is a teeth regrowing technology that is 4 years out from market, meaning it will be on the market and available for patients in 4 years, where they can actually regrow your teeth, not someone else's teeth implanted, not implants. They will actually regrow your teeth in your jaw, right? How awesome is that? So Villa, stay tuned. It's coming. Let me see. I just remembered, I told my sister-in-law about soaking linen before washing, so here's hoping it will prevent for further breakdown. Oh, good. Yeah, so Holly, thank you for reminding me about that tip. For those who don't know, linen, cellulose, linen, cotton, nettle cloth, rami, whatever, cellulose-based fibers are stronger when they are wet. Ergo, did I lose my needle again? Gosh darn it. No, I didn't. Ergo, if you put your linen and cotton and rami garments in your washing machine and soak them, let them get fully hydrated for a good couple of hours. I usually let them soak overnight, honestly, and then wash them in the wash cycle on delicate still. They will last much longer because they're stronger, and you will lose less fiber matter in the wash cycle, and they will break down less, so therefore your garments will just last longer. So if you're going to wash linen, cotton, rami, nettle cloth, any fibers, any clothing made out of plant fibers, let them soak for a good long time first. Animal fibers have the opposite in water. Animal protein fibers actually get weaker when they're wet. So like your hair also, by the way. So if you comb your hair when it's wet, it's more likely to break. Putting that out there. Can you make any dollars with that material? There's also a material that now replaces enamel for dental fillings. Yes, you are right, Raven. And that is, I don't think it's on the market yet. I think it's about to go to market, but it's not quite there yet. The one you're talking about, the one designed by the Japanese, designed and developed in Japan. Yeah, that's super cool as well. Teeth repair is about to go next level. And we're to the point where we'll no longer have to drill and use fillings. We'll be able to just regrow the teeth instead, which, yeah, I'm really excited about that too, because I had a period where I wasn't taking the best care of my teeth, and I paid the piper for that. So, okay, so what I did this time to keep my stitches straight is I actually marked where I'm going to sew.
Aaron responded to your question earlier about what they were making.
Oh, sewing a Roman chiton for a kiddo. So it's cotton in a deep purple color. Oh, that's super cool. That's cool, Aaron.
Because they outgrow it. That's why
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
sewing linen.
Oh, yeah. No, don't. No, I wouldn't waste linen. I wouldn't waste linen on a child either. To be fair, yes, I did just snort. It's okay. Where do you go to grow your teeth? Nowhere yet. So right now, the teeth regrowth technology, look it up, regrow teeth research development. It's in stage 3 clinical trials, I think. So it's scheduled to go to market in 4 years, and then you can go to a dentist, and they will do it at the dentist. Of course, probably at first it's going to take a while maybe to reach your local dentist, but I can guarantee you that in places like Korea that have a big meditourism industry, probably the dentists here are already lining up to go get the training for it. Because, it's going to be one of the things that a lot of people will travel here for, is to have their teeth regrown. So you can't have it done yet. It's not on the market yet, but in 4 years it will be, and it will be your dentist that will do I assume anyway, it should be a dentist that does it. Hopefully it will be a dentist. What did 15th century ladies wipe their derriers with? Well, that's a fair question. There were different things. They would have cloths, like a washcloth basically, or a sponge on a stick was another thing. It wasn't just ladies, that's what everyone, that's how everyone took care of their business. Now that's in Europe. In Asia, they did apparently actually use scrap paper, because Asia had paper, right? Whereas Europe didn't have much in the way of paper. We had vellum, which does not work for that application, whereas paper does. But in Europe, it was either a washcloth that would just get washed and reused, or sometimes a cloth on a stick, a rag on a stick, depending. But they washed their hands afterwards. And we know that because there are books of etiquette that talk about when you need to wash your hands, and health manuals that talk about when you need to wash your hands. And they all say to wash your hands after relieving yourself in the privy. So this idea that medieval people were filthy, that they didn't bathe, is bullshit. Bullshit. Documentably, people were just as concerned about cleanliness then as they are now. It's just that the way that they achieved cleanliness was not necessarily the same way that we do, but they still did achieve cleanliness. Let me see. I wish I could participate in the clinical trials. Dude, Shell, you're in Japan, right? Maybe you should reach out and see if they need volunteers. Just saying. Clinical trials equals free or even paid to get my teeth fixed instead of chopping my limbs off in payment. Yeah, see, exactly. So Shell, you're in Japan, man. Check it out. They might well need more volunteers for their studies. I would do it. Contessa, I've recently been watching an old series recommended on Medievalists called The Shadow of the Tower. It's been fabulous. Ooh, costume is beautiful, but really love to hear your reactions. Okay, costume, The Shadow of the Tower. The Shadow of the Tower. Okay, so everyone, I'm going to be doing a costume reaction live stream on Monday morning, Asia time, Sunday evening, Americas, middle of the night, Europe, your Africa.
It's unfair. That's a BBC series, so of course it's good.
That's okay. That's okay. And because you've specifically requested it, I will make certain that we will include some stills from Shadow of the Tower, and I will let you know what I think about it. So if you're interested in seeing, I'm going to have a guest on my show, and we're just going to bitch about the clothing in these historical series. We'll bitch about it, but we will also compliment productions where compliments are merited. So I will definitely include Shadow of the Tower. So that will be Sunday evening Americas, or sort of middle-ish of the night, early morning, your Africa, basically. Yeah. Let me see. Villa Vendetta says, talking about cleanliness, they literally had bowl and jug by tables for feasts, so no dirty hands at the table. Yep. And there were actually rules of etiquette for dining all across Europe. all across from the 12th century to the 15th century, the books of etiquette almost all say exactly the same thing. They talk about washing your hands between courses. They talk about not sticking your fingers in your mouth to clean them off. And guess what? I know a lot of modern people who do that still to this day at the table. They will lick their fingers off to clean them. Gross. Fan, thank you so much. Appreciate that. 15th century French for the win, right? It's a good look. I love it. And some of you have asked me, do I dress this way every day? Not. I often dress this way because I get dressed like this for these live streams. And once I'm dressed, I'm dressed. I'm not going to change clothes again. So I do spend a lot of my life dressed like this. And I do just, I'm in a public place right now. I'm at a Starbucks. I know you probably couldn't believe that from the look of the place, right? But this is a Starbucks in Daegu, South Korea. And I'm here dressed like this. I take the metro, I do dishes, I do chores, I can do a kickboxing workout in this outfit. So yeah, I do dress this way a lot, not necessarily because I'm trying to make any kind of statement, but as part of my medievalist channel, it's good to have the look. And once I'm dressed this way, that's it, I'm done. That's it for the day. Let me see. Thank you so much. I was constantly thinking about what would the Contessa say about this. Virginia, I'm happy to do it. Thank you for the suggestion. So also, everyone, if you have any requests on shows or movies that you would like me to review in terms of the clothing or the medieval material culture, let me know and I will add it to my list. This is probably, if we get enough viewership on this, we'll make it a weekly series. If we don't get a lot of viewership, I might just make it a monthly series. But yeah, we're going to be doing that. We're doing it on Monday. And I'm going to be doing it with a young and up-and-coming historical costumer from Newfoundland. King Henry VIII's court. So we're really looking forward to discussing the pluses and minuses of ensembles. What did they show you? The cartilage, see? There it is, the cartilage regeneration. Yep. Let me see. Name of the Rose. Oh yeah, definitely can look at Name of the Rose. Name of the Rose. So I lived in Germany for 12 years, as some of you know, and I actually lived very near Wiesbaden. And so when my family and friends would come to visit, I would often take people to Eberbach, Kloster Eberbach, which is the abbey that was used to film The Name of the Rose. So I've actually been there many times, I have seen the places where all the parts of the movies that was actually filmed at the abbey were filmed. So yeah, I actually have a special spot in my heart for The Name of the Rose. Also because Name of the Rose is probably one of the first medieval productions I ever saw as a little girl with my grandma. So I think it was also probably very influential. There were some very disturbing parts, though, for a 6-year-old. Oh, the Rain TV series. Oh, Faye, I hate to tell you this, Rain is terrible. Those clothes in Rain are modern evening gown, but we'll review it 100%. I will add that. We will totally add that. So part of the thing we'll be doing as part of this review is we'll show you a still from the show, and then I'll try to find a still of what they should have been wearing. I'll show you a picture of an actual period depiction of what they should have been wearing, so you can appreciate the difference. But I guess the spoiler is Rain is generally terrible. If it were a fantasy series, it would be fine, but it's not historical. Yeah. Yeah, like I would make those clothes for a fantasy ball or even just to wear to a modern evening, a modern gala, but I would never wear anything from that show to a historical event, sadly. Yeah. Yeah, no, Faye, they're beautiful, 100%. It's, this is not a judgment on their aesthetics. It's just a judgment on their accuracy. Yep. No criticism about the aesthetics, although there are some series where you wonder, not only are the clothes not accurate, but they're ugly as well. And then you ask yourself, why? Why are they both unappealing and not accurate? I could understand choosing something that's more appealing to modern audiences, but inaccurate. But choosing things that are both unappealing and inaccurate, that's a choice. Where am I? I am currently in Daegu, South Korea, at what I refer to as the Hanok Starbucks in downtown, in the old city. Basically, this was Joseon Daegu, where I am. This would have been within the city walls. Yeah, 120 years ago. Last Kingdom. Oh yeah, Last Kingdom. Last Kingdom, not the Kingdom of Heaven. The Last Kingdom. What was the last? The Last Kingdom was the one about Alfred the Great, right? Yeah, Alfred the Great. The stills I saw from the Last Kingdom weren't super encouraging, but I'll take a closer look at it, and I'll include that in our series. Are there any historical designs techniques that you wish were incorporated into modern clothing? God, yes. I wish that the grande assiette arm's eye was incorporated into modern clothing, especially for men. So the grande assiette arm's eye is this. So the arm's eye, for those who don't know, this seam around your armpit that joins your sleeve to your bodice, that is the arm's eye, right? And the grande assiette literally means like the big arm's eye, the big seating, right? And that is the style of arm's eye that actually comes very deeply in, but on both front and back. And so the point of juncture doesn't sit at your shoulder, which is actually uncomfortable. The point of juncture actually sits up here, and then you have this smooth line of the sleeve over your shoulder. And because it's such a deep arm's eye, it actually allows you full range of motion, full range. And so that the garment can be perfectly fitted to your body, and it doesn't matter. You still have full range of motion. By contrast, for men's clothing especially, with these modern suit coats where men can't even lift their arms without unbuttoning the front, right? And you end up with this blocky look instead of this sexy look that fits the shoulder joints really nicely. Definitely wish there was more of that. I wish flat lining were used instead of bag lining because bag lining is, like for instance, I have a designer evening gown from Neiman Marcus that has bag lining. And because when I dance in it, my heel, the sharp heel, my tango heels catch the lining and just rip it because it's bag lining. And so it's not attached one-to-one with the actual shell fabric. So it hangs away from it, and then it gets caught on my heels and I shred it. I hate bag lining. I hate bag lining with a passion. So I wish flat lining were still being used as a general rule. Let's see, other techniques I wish were being used. Yeah, I wish that a lot of the old fitting techniques were still being used, the shaping. But the problem is that we've gone away from custom-made garments to mass-produced garments, and a lot of those techniques probably wouldn't work very well in a factory setting for clothing. Lady Hawk is an interesting one. So you know what I've noticed, Tanya? Fantasy movies, fantasy in quotes, tend to have more medievally accurate clothing than historical movies. Isn't that funny? So I'll give you an example. Ever After is technically a fairy tale, right? It's a fairy tale in a historical setting, but it's not history as such. It has people who are historical. It's Leonardo da Vinci, Francis I, Henry II of France, right? Those are actual people who lived, but not entirely, right? It's almost like an alternate universe. The clothing in that is 1,000 times more accurate than the clothing in the Borgia, for instance. Isn't that a kicker? I wish they'd do the square thing at the armpit. Brain isn't braining this morning. Yeah, you're talking about the gusset, right? Yeah, gussets too, which are also part of that grande assiette sleeve, right? Gussets, a great way to give yourself mobility and fit. Yep, 100%. Agree with you there, Villa. Yep. The Excalibur movie from 1981. Oh God, that's also formative for me. I saw that when I was very little on like USA Up All Night, and I did not understand what I was watching. And it was disturbing as hell. It gave me nightmares. Yeah, Excalibur from 1981, aka the worst love making scene ever in the history of Hollywood or any movie anywhere. That scene where Uther Pendragon is in his armor getting it on with Igraine. Oh Jesus. Oh my God. Oh yeah, see, look how much better that looks when I pre-mark the seam versus this garbage. Ugh, goodness me. Yeah, that scene. Yeah, I can definitely. Are you writing any of these down for me, Henson?
No.
We need to make notes of the things that people want us to review. Okay, so I'm just going to do some back stitching down over this so when I'm doing hand stitching like this, I also like to do a back stitch, basically back down the line that I've just finished, just for extra security, and then I put a knot in it. This seems to be a technique that was used. I say seems, ha ha ha, because with medieval European garments, we very often don't have complete seams, and we can't necessarily tell how they're either started or how they start or end, because when the garments have survived, very often the seams have not necessarily, or if the seams have survived, the beginning or the end of the seam hasn't survived. So from the very few that I have seen documented with beginning and or ending, this does seem to be a way that seams were actually started and ended. And it makes sense to back over your stitching a little bit, just to give a little extra security to the end that's going to be put under probably the most stress, the beginning and the end of the fabric, right? Okay. Yeah, bag lining is not as smooth, 100%. Yep. Oh, lion in winter. That's a good choice. Could you add lion in winter to the list, please, Handsy? You're not, why aren't you making a list? Oh, okay, you got it. Okay. Yep, lion in winter, very good choice. Oh no, great films. Yeah, so I will say that the movies from the 40s, the 30s, 40s, and 50s actually tend to have much more accurate clothing in medieval and Renaissance settings than modern ones. So I'm actually likely to have good things to say. I haven't seen a lion in winter in a very long time, but my initial impression, thinking back through my memory, is that at least the silhouettes were correct. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Okay, so now that I have finished... Oh, do you need... No. Can need more room? Okay, it's good. Everyone's very polite here. King Arthur, the one where he's Roman and Guinevere is a Celt. Oh, those costumes are eek. Oh my God, yes. The one with Keira Knightley. I had high hopes for that film. I really did. I loved that they were going back to the actual potentially historical origins of the King Arthur, like, you know, the King Arthur of the Britons, former Roman officer, that Arthur, right? And then I saw the clothes, especially in which they put her. I'm like, did they kidnap her from a leather bar or what? I mean, fetish fashions are us. Right, so now that I have the seam done, I'm going to go ahead and remove the basting stitches, and if I had left more of this, I would probably save it and reuse it. That's normally what I like to do, actually. Especially when I'm using real thread like this cotton thread and not synthetic thread, then I really do like to save it and reuse it, because I'm not good at wasting. I have a very medieval attitude about material use. Right, and then on this side, I'm trying to decide if I feel like redoing this seam. Probably I don't. I think I'm just going to leave it. I don't care. I think it's not going to matter once I turn it right side out. There comes a point at which perfection is the enemy of good enough, and there's more things I would like to get done on this garment. Like, I'd like to finish this dress. So, okay, so you get to see me turn it right side out. Put it on then and show you what it's like. Probably going to have to iron it out and make it actually lay flat, but okay. So this will actually be on the inside. So technically, this is how it will be. This will be on the inside of my cuff, of the end of my sleeve. Okay, like so. And then there'll be a black sleeve that goes all the way here. And then when I fold the sleeve back, then you'll have this nice velvet will be visible. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a nice look, right? And then if I want to keep my hands covered, to have that sexy, the fingers just sort of peeking out alluringly, or it's cold and I want to keep my hands warm, then I can just unfold the sleeve, uncuff the sleeve, and then you'll have the beautiful silky black wool, and then you'll see this just peeking out. You'll see this beautiful silk velvet just peeking out just beyond the black wool. So, what that also means is that I'll have this nice silky velvet, silky silk velvet against my skin, and it'll feel all nice, right, against my hand. So that's why it looks like that, because it goes further back so that the actual, the sleeve is actually lined back behind the point where it's going to fold, so that you have this nice, smooth, it looks like it continues all the way, like you would think that the whole dress is lined in velvet. By the way, that is something they did. They lined their gowns entirely in silk velvet. Wool gowns with a silk velvet lining, entirely lined in silk velvet. Yeah. Yeah, talk about conspicuous consumption. I love that, Arthur, but I don't hold the fashions of it to being accurate at all. Yeah, no, that original King Arthur with Clive Owens, the King Arthur, Clive Owens and Keira Knightley. Yeah, the clothing.
It was too bad I couldn't watch it.
Yeah. Lalit, welcome back. Nice to see you back again. Let me see. Yeah, that's something you'd see it at a Psy-trance rave in the woods, not on a warrior, or her drawing a bow days after her fingers were broken, dislocated. Yeah, so true. Okay, so this sleeve is ready. So now, of course, it's funny as this has kind of ironed itself. now that I've done that, I may or may not have to put some easing snips here. So you see that curve, right? To make it lay flat, I might have to actually put some snips in here so that this will actually open up. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But basically, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this separately. So by which I mean I'm actually going to go ahead and fold down, and I'll do this. I'll do it with you. Let's do this together, everyone. So I'm going to actually put a hem in the top here, but just a single fold hem, a simple hem, right? And then I'm going to whip stitch that down, and then with whip stitches so that you won't be able to see the stitches on the front. And then I will insert that into the sleeve, and I will whip stitch it into the place in the sleeve. And then if I decide I want different cuffs on my gown for the lining, I can just undo the whip stitches, take these out, and put a different set in. And we know that was definitely a thing that 15th century ladies and men did, by the way, because in inventories, like the inventory of Charlotte of Savoy, the Queen of France who died in 1483, in her death inventory, which was part of her will, we actually find that she had in one of the chests, she had just sleeve cuffs, just the cuffs, nothing else, no sleeve, just the cuffs, and just the collar, and just the lining for the gown. So we know that the idea of having interchangeable, exchangeable collars for 15th century women's garments is 100% accurate and 100% documentable. And it makes sense. Yes, she was the Queen of France, so she had more dresses than the average woman, but even still, you get more flexibility in being able to have the same base gown, but change your cuffs and the collar and the guard at the bottom to make it look a little different. And it's, people think, oh, well, that's so much work. Yes, but they had human labor. They had lots of people to do this, right? Even your average upper middle class household had enough servants that the lady of the house could say before going to bed, tomorrow I would like to wear the black wool dress with the red velvet cuffs, the red velvet collar, and the red velvet trim. And her maids would make it happen so that by the time she was ready to get dressed in the morning, everything had been changed out. Whip stitches go really quickly. Whip stitch for the win. Whip stitch lovers unite. My favorite stitch of all is a whip stitch, right? And whip stitches go really fast. They're pretty secure, and especially for a garment that you're going to, a part of the garment where you're going to be making frequent alterations, they don't have to be perma-stitch, right? It doesn't have to be tight and small necessarily. They can be relatively long because, it's a part of the dress that will see frequent changes. So yeah, that's another thing that I think it's an interesting idea that I wish we could figure out. I'm not certain how we could apply it to modern fashion, but the idea that by changing the trim of the garment, it changes the whole look. Like now we do it with jewelry, right? You can change the look by accessories. Well, they did also have accessories in the 15th century, but also the actual sewn-on parts of the dress were considered accessories as well. Completely different view. I'm looking forward to watching the Merlin series the Daily Wire is producing. I read that book series by Stephen Lawhead in my youth, so at some point I'll subscribe long enough to binge watch. I haven't seen any stills. Have you seen any stills from the new Merlin series? Have you seen any stills from the new Merlin series? Add that to the list. I want to check it out. By the way, I have seen the stills from the new Robin Hood, The Death of Robin Hood. It's real bad. It's real bad. What I've seen is downright terrible, and it breaks my heart because of the actors they have in this. It's horrible. It makes me very sad. So just to give you a general idea, so this is what I meant by doing a single hem like this, and then now I'm going to fiddle with it a little bit to make it a little more better, as it were. But then I'm just going to whip stitch it down here so that I will install it, and the actual cuff of the actual sleeve of the garment will go to about here. So this little beautiful velvety furry edge will be peeking out flirtatiously from the end of my sleeve. I love your green striped dress. Is it based on any specific pattern or decade? Maria, a lovely question. For those who are wondering what she's talking about, check out my latest short. I think I'm wearing that dress actually. The green striped gamora. So the gamora, the shape of that gown is 1470s to 1490. Florence specifically. The stripes, unfortunately, are not really documentable to Florence. That was the first dress I made in that style, and I did not have the same research resources at my disposal that I now have. I unfortunately learned years later that striped pattern was really a Milanese thing and not really documentable to Florence. Milanese or Aragonese or Neapolitan. But not documentable to Florence. So the stripe part, not so authentic to Florence. The shape, though, completely 100% 1470 to 1490 Florence. How do I experience dressing in European historical wear in Korea? I love the experience. Koreans love it too. Koreans love seeing me dress like this, don't they, handsome? Yeah. All men, women, young, old. The children love it. Little boys, and I mean little, like 3 and 4, they are such flirts. Little girls are like, oh, a princess. I mean, they say it in Korean, but my Korean is good enough that I understand what they're saying, and they want to have their picture taken with me. Now, people in Korea react very positively to this. They think I'm wearing my traditional costume of my people. They call it hanbok because for them, the word hanbok doesn't mean Korean clothing, even though it does. In their minds, it equals traditional clothing. So yeah, very positive. Yep, love dressing like this in Korea. People especially love the colors. They love seeing the colors. Let me see. I really like how there were a lot of options for button-on collars in the 1940s. Yes, exactly. Right. So the idea of a detachable, replaceable collar, that dates back a long time, and until relatively recently, it was still a thing. Let me see. Did I miss any other questions? The Pendragon Cycle Rise of Merlin is the name of the series. Okay. The Pendragon Cycle Rise of the Merlin. Rise of the Merlin. Yeah, he found it. It's all good.
I'm reading your chat.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, no, I don't. I'm focused on my people.
Yeah, that's why I'm reading the chat.
Hey, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device. Let's see, what else is going on? Oh, exciting news. I have another date to go to another Korean museum and examine firsthand with my hands and myself in person 16th century Korean garments. On March 24th, I will be going to the National Folk Museum in Seoul. I have a 2-hour window. I've got 3 specific garments picked out. I think they're all dogori no chima, so the bolero-like jackets that have the crossover in the front. That's called a dogori in Korean. And I'm going to be examining ones from the 16th century. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to tell you all about that. So that's March 24th. So stay tuned. And some of you may have heard I am seriously considering getting my PhD in fashion history, making all of this knowledge I already have official with a piece of paper. So I'm probably going to be focusing my dissertation on 16th century Korean garments, and specifically from the perspective of their context and how they were made, how to actually make them, which is something no one has done, not even in Korea. And I'm going to be writing in English, so it's going to bring historical Korean fashion to a bigger audience. So I'm really excited about that prospect. So, of course, I will keep up this whole thing while I'm doing my PhD work. So you all are going to be coming along with me on my PhD journey. You're welcome. Yeah. What's the story behind your necklace? It's beautiful, right? So this is a replica of a jewel owned by Beatrice d'Este, one of the two famous Este sisters from the end of the 15th century. You can see it on her portraits. If you look up you would say Beatrice in English, right? Beatrice of Este. If you look up her portraits, you will see this jewel. And this is a replica made by Armor and Castings. Check out the beautiful back of that, the detail they went to make a beautiful jewel. So this kind of jewel was a very versatile jewel in the 15th century. They were popular all throughout Europe, not just Italy. And often they would be made somewhere else and then imported in, like they would be made in Germany. Germany was very much what is now Germany, Nuremberg especially, very much known for its goldsmithing. So frequently people would, the well-heeled merchants and patricians and nobility would actually commission these from other goldsmiths and then have them brought in. So Armor and Castings made this, armorandcastings.com, and believe it or not, their amazing work is very reasonably priced. So if you're interested in purchasing any of their pieces, check out their website. They've got hundreds of amazing replicas. Armorandcastings.com. Contessa 10 will get you a discount on 10% off of your purchase. Yep. Twitchy, good morning. Welcome. Nice to see you. I was wondering if you would catch us. My Armor and Castings pieces arrived yesterday. Ooh, yeah, Twitchy, could you send us pictures in the Discord? For those who don't know, one of the benefits for my super fans and for my channel members and my patrons on Patreon is a Creative Contessa Discord where I share extra details, where we chat together. Sometimes we do voice sessions or even video sessions, and I share extra resources there. People ask me questions, we ask each other questions, and we can share things like pictures of cool purchases. So, yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in benefiting from extra content and my Creative Contessa Discord, consider becoming a channel member or patron. If you're a channel member or a patron and you have missed that you have access to my Discord, please send me a message, an email. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Messenger, and I will make sure you get the invitation. Villa says, do they have an Etsy? They have a website. They do not. I don't know if they have Etsy. Actually, I don't know. Could you check and see if Armor and Castings have an Etsy store? They have a website. They have their own website, so I don't think they sell on Etsy. Yeah. I'm flipping Wizardland. Okay, sorry everyone. We experienced a technical difficulty of network, but we're back. Let me see. Okay. They do have an Etsy store. Yes, Armor and Castings does have an Etsy store also. So yes, if you prefer to buy from Etsy, you can go there as well. But the Contessa 10 might only work on their website. I don't know if it works on Etsy or not. Let me see. Maria says she is writing a thesis on Korean hanbok. Nice. Specifically how fashion laws helped implement Neo-Confucianism through all the layers of society. Lack of translated sources is a pain. Yeah, it is a big problem, the lack of translated sources. You might want to reach out to Dr. Minji Kim. She is the expert with whom I've been working. She's been a mentor to me these last 6 months. She also is one of the co-authors of Korea, A Dress History, or A Dress History of Korea. If you don't know that book, you need to check it out. Yeah, so the laws, the fashion history laws are very interesting. 100% agree with you on that. And Neo-Confucianism is the worst thing to happen to Korea possibly ever, and that includes the Japanese colonial period. Yeah, but that's great thesis, fantastic thesis. Yeah, but the lack of sources in English is problematic. But to be honest, a lot of those laws aren't in Korean either. They're in classical Chinese characters. So you'd have to be able to read classical Chinese characters you'd have to be able to read historical Korean in classical Chinese characters. It's triply troublesome. So I might actually have to start learning classical Chinese. Ooh, wow. I just saw so these are the pictures of the pieces that Twitchy bought, that Han bought. Wow, those are gorgeous. Wow, wow. Yeah. So Villa Vendetta, that is their Etsy. That is the right place. But I think Contessa 10 might get only work on the website. I don't know if it works on their Etsy store. Yeah, I'll go to the website. Etsy takes a 30% cut. Oof, goddamn, Etsy. Frack. Starting my classical Chinese Korean semester in 3 weeks from now. Very excited. We'll get there one day. You're a great inspiration. Well, thank you, Marie. I try. I hope, I hope all of this thing that I do here, I do hope it's inspiring, because that's kind of part of my life goal, is to inspire people to explore their creativity and knowledge in a different kind of way. Twitchy says she's delighted with the pieces, especially as they are doing some absolutely fabulous reproductions. Yeah, and the thing I like about Armor and Castings in particular is that they're constantly reworking their molds. So they make their own molds. For those who don't understand, the process of making this piece is not as simple as getting a rock, pouring some metal in it, and out this comes. Usually it comes out in pieces, and then it has to be assembled together. And you still have to inset the gems, add all the little bits and bobs, do the gold plating, etc. So they actually have to carve a mold in wax and then make that and cast that into a reusable mold, right? So every couple of years, Armor and Castings basically goes through piece by piece. They are constantly reworking their molds, because they're learning too as they're going. They're getting better at their art as they're going along, and so they apply their new skill level to their old pieces and rework them. So even if you had, this is a newer one, so this wouldn't apply, but let's say they had this 10 years ago in their shop, the one that they're making now is going to be better, because it will be finer, it will be more detailed, it will be better made. So that's one of the things I love about them, is they don't just make a mold and then use that same mold forever. No. They make a mold, and then a couple of years later they revisit again and rework it so it's even better. That's one of the things, that's my style as well, because I'm constantly learning and constantly getting better. So I never sit on my laurels, and for those of you in the SCA, you might appreciate the pun there. Other fun news, Twitchy, I hope you don't mind if I share the news with everyone. They're going to find out anyway. Twitchy and I are going to be doing a pilgrimage together. We're going to be doing part of the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela together. We're going to be walking it. We're going to be doing it in medieval kit. I will, of course, be vlogging along and taking you with me. I'm very excited. I've been wanting to do this pilgrimage for years and years and years. So I've been wanting to do it since I lived in Spain in 2000 and learned about the pilgrimage by reading a Paulo Coelho novel about it. So yeah, this is fulfilling a lifelong dream of mine. Very excited to be sharing this experience with Twitchy, 100%. Yeah, Twitchy, I'm so hyped. Twitchy, October 5th, by the way, we should go for October 5th. So I'm very excited. I'm going to be doing some more research into pilgrimage kit, right? Because yes, a noblewoman, but still a noblewoman would be wearing a lot of wool on her pilgrimage. She would have a pilgrim scrip. So I'm going to make a nice pilgrim scrip for myself. Pilgrim scrip is the bag. It's an over-the-shoulder rectangular bag with a flap on it. So yeah, very excited about doing research into 15th century pilgrimage kit and making all the things I'm going to need to have a successful pilgrimage experience. We are going to be staying just like our medieval forebears would have done. We will be staying in inns that are along the route, along the Camino. And we're going to be staying in these pilgrimage inns that actually cater to pilgrims specifically. We'll be eating the meals that they provide specifically for pilgrims, many of which have not changed much. Some of them are very, very medieval looking. And so, yeah, very excited about this prospect. Yeah, noble. So it's going to be a noble woman and her sponsored nun. So it's going to be super excited. It's going to be two ladies on the Camino, on the road to Compostela. Compostela, sorry, not Campo. Compostela. Very just so I'm so jazzed about this. Yeah, and we're already starting planning. So, yeah, it's a new medieval adventure that I can share with you, or that we can share with you all actually. So Twitchy is going to be in the appropriate attire for such a pilgrimage, and there's references for this kind of thing. Chaucer mentioned there's a nun in the companions on the road to Canterbury. So he actually describes all of the companions and their clothing in pretty decent detail, in fact. So, there are references. There's good evidence to help us provide us with the resources to have an accurate depiction of pilgrims for our respective class and era. I wish I had pilgrimage funds. There seems I find another one I want to do every 6 months. Yeah. Pilgrimage funds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I will say that we have just been very good at saving and investing. So yeah, I'm also very good at living frugally. People think I'm a trust fund baby. I'm not a trust fund baby. I'm not. I've always been good with money. I've always been good at living frugally in certain parts of my life.
She made me good with money.
I made him good with money. I taught him financial literacy. I've always been good at living frugally in one aspect of my life so that I could live less frugally in another aspect of my life. From childhood onward, right? I learned to save, to work extra jobs, and decide that certain things were more important than others. Okay, question. Are your Patreon prices per month? Trying to sign up by saying prices per post. Oh yeah, so so I've had my Patreon for a long time, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it migrate to a per month thing, because when I signed up, per month wasn't an option. It was per post. Right now it's per post, Villa, but you can set the maximum. You can set your maximum that you want to. So you can say, I only want to do $5 per month, $10 a month, whatever it is. And so you can just say that you can set your maximum for the amount you actually want to sponsor per month. At least you should be able to do that. So let me know if it's not letting you set a maximum. There should be a way for you to say, this is my maximum per monthly amount that I want to sponsor for this person. Yep. Shellback bow. I've got 3 kids under 4. Oh, forget it. They're going to eat all your money. Well, that was you.
Cats?
That was you. That was you when I met you.
3 kids under 4. One was 5.
No, he wasn't 5 yet.
He was 5 when he left.
But he wasn't 5 when Isaac was born. You have been at a stage in your life when you had 3 kids under 4. That was Ryan when I met him. It was 3 kids under 4. And yeah, for many years we had to live extra frugally because of that, didn't we, handsome? Yeah. So Villa, let me know. So for my patron, my current Patreon setup is per creation, but you don't have to support. You can pick the monthly amount. You can say you want to be a bronze patron. I'm just tossing that out there. But you only want to, support up to $5 per month or up to $10 per month or whatever. Yeah, it's there. There should be ways to modify that. Villa, let me know if it's not letting you do that. Let me see. Twitchy says, we also have images of nuns on pilgrimages and even records of nuns being companions for noble women. They often were family members who joined a convent to support the family's spiritual health. Yep, absolutely, Twitchy. 100% authentic. You and I going out together as noble woman and companion nun. I'm loving the idea more and more every day. Yeah, I see that. I just didn't want to miss stuff. Oh, no, you won't. So no. So Villa, you won't miss anything. I promise you won't miss anything, because it's even the paid posts you don't pay for. It doesn't matter. You still get access to it. Does that make sense? Don't worry. You won't miss anything. I promise. The USA adds a VAT after? Are you kidding me? Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm sorry. Why is this so hard?
I actually got to play with an ensemble at this last event I was at. It was quite fun.
Yeah, so Ryan's getting much better at the lute. His lute playing is coming along quite nicely. Yep.
They didn't kick me out, so I must have been doing something right.
What countries have I been to? Oh my God.
How long do we have for the
I
rest
think
of
I counted recently and it was like 57. So what countries have I been to?
No, you're higher than that. I think you're up to about 60.
Maybe. So, okay, first off, for those who don't know, travel is another one of my big passions. And I have a travel channel, Travels with the Creative Contessa, if you want to check that out. I do a lot of live streaming there too, especially when I do walkabouts in historic sites. Because travel and history to me kind of go hand to hand, but YouTube didn't view it that way, so I had to create a separate travel channel. So I don't know. What countries have I been to? I'll start here in Asia and work my way outward. Okay, so obviously I'm in Korea now, so that's obvious.
Do it in the voice of Wacko.
Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong. Now some of you might view those all as China, but until recently none of those were China. Anyway, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka. I think I said Vietnam. Did I say Vietnam? I'll say Vietnam again. India, multiple of the Emirates, so Abu Dhabi, Dubai. I've been to Egypt. Let's see. I've not been to Morocco, curiously. European Union, I've been most places in the European Union. Malta, Spain, Portugal. I actually haven't been to Andorra. That's a lack on my part. Italy, Vatican City, Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, Greece. There's another. I haven't been to Liechtenstein.
Got you beat on one?
Yeah, you do. But
San
wait,
Marino?
no, wait. There's another of the Balkan states: Croatia, Slovenia, Herzegovina, Bosnia Herzegovina. Yes, yeah, Bosnia Herzegovina. I have also been moving my way up. I have been to the Czech Republic. I've been to Austria. I've been to Switzerland, Italy, obviously. I think I said Malta. If I didn't, Malta. France, Germany, all of Benelux, probably, and all of Benelux. Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands, all of the UK, Wales, England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland. Haven't been to Norway. I've been to Iceland. I've been to Sweden. I've been to Finland. I have not been to any of the Baltic states yet. That's on me. I wish I had been. I've not been to Russia, and at this point, we'll probably never go to Russia unless things really change drastically. Let's see. Okay, then moving over to. I've been to South Africa. I've been to Ethiopia. I've been to. I've been to Côte d'Ivoire, but I only a layover in Côte d'Ivoire, so it wasn't like I was there. Really, not really anyway. I have been I feel like I've been to some part of Indonesia, but that's not true. I don't know why I keep thinking I've been to some part of Indonesia. That's not true. I have not been to Indonesia. I have not been to Mexico, actually. I've been to a bunch of Caribbean islands. I've been to Canada. Yeah, I think that is maybe all the countries I've been to.
San Marino?
I've not been to San Marino.
I've got 2 countries on you.
Yeah, Cyprus, depending on what you count Cyprus as. I have been to Cyprus. Turkey, I don't remember if I said Turkey. Yeah. And then a bunch of places I want to go, keep blowing up literally, so I keep not being able to go to them. I'm thinking Syria, I'm thinking Jordan, I'm thinking Lebanon, I'm thinking Iran, I'm thinking Pakistan. Yeah, that's very disappointing. I would like to get to Nepal and to Tibet, although not for the reasons that people usually want to get to those places. I have no interest in climbing the Himalayas. None. Zero. That's not why I want to go to those places. Let me see. Okay. Which parts of Africa has the most westernized royal outfits? Oh, shoot. I don't know how to answer that question. Which parts of Africa have the most westernized royal outfits? I think
I don't think we actually know.
I can't offhand. I can't think of any that are westernized, especially because a lot of the kingdoms in Africa that are back to being kingdoms or still are kingdoms, they have purposefully tried to stay traditional or gone back to traditional, from what I've seen. And since the since the end of colonization, anyway. Yeah, so I can't think of any that have particularly westernized outfits offhand. Ethiopia historically has had ties with, trade ties with the Middle East, with Asia, with Northern Africa, and also with Europe because of embassies that were sent there. But their clothes, don't really reflect that very much now. Now, back in the first half of the first millennium, the depictions of the period depictions of Ethiopians from that era, Abyssinia, as the kingdom is sometimes called by Europeans, their clothing is much more recognizable as being like Roman, with tunic styles and draping, that sort of thing. But yeah, definitely you wouldn't look at them now and say that's European royalty.
You drink beer there again?
Let me see. My friend was just in Cyprus for a military exercise. Yeah, that is a thing that happens in Cyprus. Military exercises for the win. Where am I? I am currently in Daegu, South Korea, actually. Yeah. People listing there. At least I'm trying to think if any of those are places I've been. I haven't been to Bahrain. Bulgaria, right, duh, stupid me. Yes, I have been to Bulgaria. Have not yet been to Romania. Can't believe I forgot Bulgaria. I have not been to Poland. We've not been to Poland. We almost went to Poland. You've been to Estonia, though.
And Liechtenstein? Or not? Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Mostly because we landed in Lithuania and I think drove to Estonia.
Right. Trying to think if there's any other countries I just forgot about. I have not yet been to South America. That's not because I don't want to. It's just because it's very far away from the places I've lived most of my life. I want to go to South America, many places in South America. The history from ancient to more recent is just, left it with such richness of culture and cuisine and architecture and interesting people. And of course, I speak Spanish fluently, so that will get me around in a lot of places in South America. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. Have I missed any important questions? If you asked a question and I missed it, I'm not ignoring you on purpose. It's just that I missed it. There's a lot of medieval Gothic cathedrals and pilgrimage sites I want to get to. I got to Saint Denis in 2023. You mean Saint Denis in Paris? That's Saint Denis? Yeah, that's a fantastic cathedral.
And into the smaller Paris.
Yeah, the smaller churches in Paris. Yeah. Okay, then clearly that is Saint Denis in Paris. I lived around the corner from Saint Denis when I lived in Paris. It was great. I lived 2 blocks from the Seine, so I was able to go running every morning along the Seine. I would go running at the Jardin des Tuileries, or I'd go walk down to the Jardin du Luxembourg and the Palais du Luxembourg and go running every morning. And nearly every morning when I lived in Paris, wherever I went, no matter where I went for a morning run, I would run into a movie filming set. So it wouldn't surprise me if I'm in the background of a lot of French movies as Random Runner 3, uncredited. Yeah, that was Paris. What a great city. That was back in 2003. Paris is very different now. I mean, not just Paris. Europe is very different, and not for the better, honestly. Europe, you're going a dark way. Pull back, man. Pull back. Villa Vendetta says, I thought I'd only been to a few. Now that I list them off, it's a lot more than I thought, right? You start listing them. Oh, Crete. I've been to Crete. Isn't Crete part of Greece? No, Crete's its own country. Crete is part of Greece. Crete is part of Greece. That's what I thought. Yeah, Crete is part of Greece.
All the islands probably think of themselves
Yeah.
as independent.
And I've been to the Azores and the Canaries. The Azores are part of Portugal, the Canaries are part of Spain. But I have been all of them, or most of them at this point. Did you go running in a medieval dress? When I lived in Paris? No. It's been a while. I had to think back on it. I have gone running in this dress. I have gone running in this dress. No problem. No problem at all. Yeah, Haas, I'm confident that I'm a background character in a lot of French movies from roughly the year 2003. If it was filmed in Paris, there's a likelihood I'm accidentally in it. I have a question. Why does the medieval era portray animals so ugly? Like, for example, a cat or a dog with humanoid features. Oh, so the cats will be cats. You're talking about in art, right? Right. So medieval art is not necessarily. Oh, right. Why do they? I know what you mean. So in some cases, it was intentional because they're not really depicting cats and dogs like they're cats and dogs. They're depicting them as some kind of mythical creature or some kind of thing that's being described in the story. So the problem with medieval art is you really have to know the story that the art is illustrating, because for the most part, medieval art is illustratory. And, I mean, not even just medieval art up until the 19th century, for the most part, is illustrating an episode in history or in mythology or in legend or something that happens in literature, something that happens in the Bible. So you have to understand the story that is being depicted, or that is being depicted. But also medieval artists were imaginative. And they didn't necessarily want to depict their world as it really was. They wanted to depict a world that was funny, that was interesting, that was whimsical. So a lot of medieval art reflects that as well, that it's not supposed to be like a real cat. It's supposed to be a funny cat with strange humanoid features. So yeah, you really have to understand what is happening in medieval historical art, not just medieval art. In historical art, you really do often have to understand the context. Yeah, exactly. So Twitchy says it's stylistic. They're cartoons. Yep, exactly. It's supposed to be whimsical. It's supposed to be funny. It's and satirical. And in some cases, the face on that cat or dog might be someone the artist knew, and might be someone that the artist is satirizing or poking fun at. For instance, if it's a monk doing the illumination, they might put the face of their abbot on the cat or the dog or the snail or the rabbit to make a point. Yeah. Was that someone trying to make fun of me that got deleted? Oh.
Political.
Oh, political. Okay. Yeah. So everyone, I'm like.
Just don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I took care of it.
What languages can I read, speak? I can. So most of my foreign languages are a little rusty right now because I don't get a chance to exercise them very often. But at various times in my life, I have been fluent in Spanish, French, German, and Italian. I can read Portuguese, and I can understand Portuguese mostly when it's spoken, if they don't speak too quickly. Because I had a semester of Portuguese at university. I can speak Korean like a 4-year-old, and I can understand at about a 4-year-old level in terms of listening comprehension. Let me see. I can read Latin. Medieval Latin especially is easy for me. Trying to think what are the languages I might be able to read and understand. I can often understand Dutch, both spoken and written.
True about Chaucer's English recently.
Yeah. My Middle English is getting better. Where am I? I am in Daegu, South Korea, at one of my favorite Starbucks in the world, right? You would never know this is a Starbucks, right? Pretty fantastic, huh? The problem with medieval to Renaissance era, I think, is the witch accusations on women who are minding their own business or just have some intelligence. So that's a myth. Guys, medieval era is not the witch hunting era. And the Renaissance, I don't like to even use that term, honestly, because it doesn't give you a specific era. So witch hunts as such, are not a medieval thing. They're just not. There are very few witch trials, and it's never about women being intelligent and just minding their business. It's also a myth that intelligent women in the Middle Ages were accused of being witches. It's not true. The era of witch hunting is the 17th century, not medieval and not Renaissance. That's the Enlightenment. That's the modern era, not even early modern, just the modern era, right? That's when witch hunts get really big. Medieval women were not persecuted for practicing medicine or herbalism or anything like that. There's no real evidence of that. And very often, if someone was accused of witchcraft, it was a political ploy, right? It was usually actually higher ranking people, and men included, like the Templars, who were accused of being witches and were burnt. That was a political thing. No one actually believed that bullshit. That was a ploy to get their to be able to confiscate all of their property and take control of it, right? Black Friday. Look up the origin of Black Friday. You'll be surprised if you're not familiar with that history. Right? So witch trials are very, very far and few in between in the actual Middle Ages and the actual Renaissance. It's actually the Reformation that starts that nonsense. The Reformation knocks women down several pegs in the social status, and the places where Protestantism becomes supreme, women lose a lot of rights. Like, it becomes more restrictive for women, not less restrictive under the Reformation. That's the reality, everyone. Sorry, but there it is. Because under these most of the Protestant sects of Christianity, the cult of Mary is gone. So the Mother of God isn't even an important person anymore. So the only woman who's left who's of any importance is Eve, the sinner, right? So then the Protestant religions focus really hard on women being the cause of man's downfall. And so women without the redemption arc, right? So there's no more redemption arc for women under Protestantism. So that's where you really start to see the rise of witch trials. Like the Hammer of Witches, when it's written and published in the 1490s, people mostly, its contemporaries look at it like it's a bunch of, it's weird, crazy crackpot bullshit, right? It doesn't get any play until the end of the 16th century. And then James I of England comes along, and he actually believes in witches. He believes in witchcraft. He starts witch hunting, right? He actually starts witches trials. He publishes a pamphlet, right? But that's not Renaissance anymore. That's the end of the 16th. That's the early 17th century. In my world, that's not even Renaissance. That's the beginning of the next Dark Age, if you ask me. Yeah. Some animals the monks have never seen before, and it's all word to mouth. Yeah, there's that too. Can I read Braille? I cannot read Braille. I cannot read Braille. I cannot read. Oh, goodness. Okay. I've fallen behind in the comments. Let me see. I've been reading about the Puritans in the Bay Colony, and they were a lot. So I am a Mayflower descendant, everyone. On my mom's side of the family, my ancestors came over on the Mayflower. I have multiple sets of ancestors in the Plymouth Colony. And I have been to the Plymouth Colony, where the Living History Village. I went there for the first time when I was 5, and then again when I was 10. That's probably one of the reasons I love living history. So yeah, I'm very familiar with the bullshit that the Puritans got up to in the Bay Colony. They were a lot, as Villa Vendetta says. Let me see. Twitchy says, you also have an unfortunate rise coincidence between the rise of Protestantism and the Little Ice Age. Yes, bad harvests, plagues, and war, economic downturn. Witches are more a reflection of how badly things were. Yep. As always, Twitchy Witch, 100% astute analysis. It's a shame because James I, he was very good about witch trials until his marriage. Then he went off. Yeah, and let me tell you, Presbyterians, those Scottish Protestants, they were bonkers. I'm referring specifically to 16th and 17th century and even 18th century Scottish Presbyterians. The Calvinists, you're crazy. Let me see. William, thank you for joining. Thank you, appreciate you. If like and subscribe if you haven't, and of course that notification bell, hit all if you would like to see when I do all the things I do. Yeah. Thank you, William. Have a nice evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Oh, goodness. I've been talking and subconsciously sewing. So we're going to see here in a moment how much I like the stitches I just made. Oh, goodness. Goodness, goodness. Okay. Okay. Well, I definitely poked through more to the front than I wanted to, but it won't really matter. Okay, so here is the single hem that I did, right? And you can see that I had to do little micro tucks, little micro gathers along the way here because it's wider at the top than it is at the bottom because of the flare, right? So yeah, that's what it looks like on the back. This is the inside. It doesn't matter really how it looks. Let's show you what it looks like on the outside. Yeah, might have to.
Tanya sent a gift membership.
Oh, Tanya, thank you so much for sending that gift membership. That's really cool of you. Awesome. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You can see a spot I'm not really happy with, a couple of spots. So I'm going to do some, see this, these sharper edges here. So I'm going to do some cosmetic surgery here with my needle to fix that, to just kind of bring that to make it look more round. When you think witch trials, you should always think in terms of political backlash against minorities or opponents, because it's no different than today. It's actually a good way to contextualize events. Yeah, 100%. Twitchy, again, super astute. Yeah, so Twitchy, maybe you have an answer for this. I don't know why witch trials are associated with the Middle Ages when they're very much not a medieval phenomenon. Do you know why that is? Was there some Victorian historian that planted that seed in people's minds? Everyone thinks that. They think that witch trials are medieval. And frankly, they're modern. Horrifyingly, they're modern. Yeah, Villa Vendetta coming to James I's defense. He says, James I said confession under torture is not a true confession. You're right. That children cannot be a valid witness. Saying there has to be real trials with real evidence. Yeah, James I wasn't unreasonable at first. At first. I'm going to see if I can maybe pull this down. Nope, not like that. Why were the Calvinists so ruthless in the Renaissance? So, to understand, it's a good question. Why were Calvinists so ruthless in the Renaissance? Calvinism is just ruthless, full stop. Calvinism is like what happens to Christianity if someone just doesn't read anything that Jesus wrote, or that Jesus didn't write. Sorry, if people don't read any of the scripture actually attributed that cites Jesus and Jesus's teachings and Jesus's statements, right? Calvin was a fucking nutter, right? John Calvin, crazy, Swiss nutter. He was, I don't know, maybe living in the mountains, that cold climate, right? So I think Twitchy actually made a good point. The Protestant Reformation happens in the context of the Little Ice Age. Things are getting dark. Things are getting cold. Crops are failing increasingly. The weather is changing drastically. And so it wouldn't surprise me if part of the way to try to understand that led to these new interpretations of Christianity. People started thinking more about the end times because my feeling is, to a certain degree, it felt like they were coming. When your crops start failing, when summers get shorter, when winters are getting longer, when rivers are freezing so hard that you can have ice fairs. Whereas that didn't happen before in living memory, right? People start looking for answers, and unfortunately, one of the answers that people have historically come to world over throughout history is that the world is ending, and so we need to do something to prepare ourselves for the end. And the specifics of how to prepare ourselves for the end, that changes a little bit. But I think that's why John Calvin came up with the nonsense he did. It was just in that context of things are getting worse in many ways. So how can we prepare for what is very clearly the end of the world? Yeah. Calvinism is black and white, no shading, no color nuance. Yep. Yep. It's like Calvinism is almost the opposite of everything Christ teaches. Right? It's almost the opposite of everything that Christ teaches. It's crazy. The medieval era became a good byword for backwards and superstitious. Hence, it was used as an allegory for the modern myth mom mentality. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, Twitchy, but can you think of an actual historical source? The first one to attribute witch trials to the Middle Ages, is there actually, one of those antiquarians from the 19th century, a Victorian historian who said that? I'm trying to trace the origins.
There's that English dude who wrote the Medieval English Feast.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, right. Yeah. You can tell when historians are biased because they're not, especially English historians. Like English historians, when they're biased shows in bright, shiny, glittering colors. Right? They don't even, because British snark lets you know exactly what they think about any given thing. Could you go get me some hot water, Hanson? Would you just ask for hot water? Yeah. Let me see. Which is worse, Henry VIII's reign or the Reign of Terror, aka the French Revolution? Oof. Oh, man. Which is worse? Who had it worse? The French living under the Reign of Terror at the end of the 18th century, or the Reign of Terror was probably worse for more people. Henry VIII's tyranny was relatively limited in who it impacted. The Reign of Terror was not limited in whom it impacted, right? Henry VIII, his tyranny mostly impacted, on average, it impacted people who were in his inner circle, who dared to get too close to the sun, as it were, right? And obviously the monasteries also suffered, but thank you. But yeah, I think the Reign of Terror was probably, in terms of pure numbers, worse. But if you were in Henry's circle, then yeah. But that would be an interesting debate. Actually, that would be a great debate. Which is worse, the Reign of Terror or the rule of Henry VIII? Yeah, mostly I hear people say the Middle Ages, usually have no clue what those dates actually are. They say Middle Ages and are thinking of the Tudor era or the Stuart era. Yeah, the Tudor era is no longer the Middle Ages. Well, okay, so the Tudor era overlaps, in my opinion. For me, honestly, in Europe, the Middle Ages ends with the Reformation. The onset of the Reformation is when the medieval era really ends. That, for me, is the actual end. And that's not just that's all over Europe. That is really when the medieval world comes to an end, because that is the one unifying factor of across the medieval world. The one unifying factor is the church, right? Because even in places that were pagan in the earlier part of the Middle Ages, they are impacted by the church through trade routes, and eventually the church takes them over. Right? So then when you have the Reformation come along and the church is no longer the singular spiritual power, religious power in Europe, that's really the end of the medieval world, because a lot of the key institutions that define the medieval world, i.e. the monasteries, the monastic communities, are forcibly shut down and confiscated and secularized. So for me, that's really the end of the Middle Ages, and the Tudor era spans that.
Let's be fair, though. A term to cover 1,000 years of history is just useless anyway.
Yeah, it's called the Middle Ages because it's the period between two eras, as though it doesn't have its own characteristics, as though it's not worthy of being itself. Yeah, that's also a bit of historical snobbery from people who lived afterwards and wanted to make themselves feel superior. Yeah. Let's see if I can get this to lie more flatly. Okay, let me see. Okay, questions? Oh, gosh, I'm way behind. Sorry, everyone, I got behind. Calvinism was in a weird place, but they wanted to have different ideas about Christianity and wanted to stomp out dissent simultaneously. Yeah, it's really weird. Ooh, Boost Nations, hello, wow, from Somalia, welcome to Daegu, South Korea, where I am dressed as a 15th century French noblewoman, relaxing at home in her private Hanok Starbucks. The medieval era at that time, what was happening in the Islamic world? So the Islamic world, this is the irony, Haas, right? While Europe is in certain parts and in certain ways struggling, it's not dark. Like the Dark Ages, there is a Dark Age in Europe. There is, absolutely. It is it's the Justinian plague and the 100 years after that, when Europe is still fighting off the Justinian plague. Yeah, that's a dark era. I will not deny that. For many reasons, but that's what happens when you 90% of your population dies. But what is happening, that's what we call the gold, historians refer to this same period in Northern Africa, in the Middle East, in Spain, in Persia, etc. It's the golden era of Islam, right? So this is when you have all these Islamic scholars and scientists, what we would call scientists, innovating and discovering and documenting. They're copying ancient Greek and Roman texts. They're philosophizing. There are great libraries. There are great institutions of learning. There's a great exchange of thought. There's a freedom of thought. Early Islam is wonderful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's not what people think of now. It is a golden era for that part of the world. So much learning, so much exchange. The caliphate, the various caliphates, the various sultanates, all across, from Spain all the way to Persia. Actually, freedom of religion is a thing. Christians and Jews and Zoroastrians, all of these other faiths, that actually spiritual beliefs that exist in those places, they're allowed to practice, they're allowed to exist, they're not persecuted, they're not punished for it. That doesn't start happening until much later. It all starts to break down when the steppes people start migrating from the steppes and literally riding roughshod over Afghanistan and Persia and what is now Iraq, and things start getting violent, then a lot of that slowly dies away. That's just what happens in the onslaught of violence. Ooh, looks fantastic, handsome, very nice. He's going to be so happy when he sees this. I tell you, there was such beauty. I mean, the clothing was so elegant, and in medieval clothing in Persia and in what is now Turkey, in the Middle East, in the Caliphate in Egypt, in Spain, what is now Morocco, Tunisia. The clothes were just so elegant for men and women. Beautiful layers, light and airy, beautiful prints, embroidery, just fitting in the body for men and women. Beautiful headdresses, turbans of different kinds, veils and headpieces. Women didn't cover themselves, right? They had much more freedom in many ways. So, yeah, it was a beautiful time for Islam, honestly. So, it's considered a dark age in Europe. It's a golden age in the Islamic parts of the world. Yeah. Let me see. If here in my country, in the medieval era, our country wasn't even colonized by Spain yet. Our country was nice. It had literature, art, thriving societies already before Spain came. Yeah, absolutely. The Philippines, before Spanish, before colonization. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Most places in the world were better before European colonization. It's a broad, sweeping statement. But all of the places I've studied that are post-colonization, when I look at how they were pre-colonization, they were better off. just putting that out there. Yeah. And again, broad sweeping statement, there will be exceptions. Not saying European colonization was bad everywhere, but mostly it left a mess.
We're
still cleaning up the mess. And by we, I mean the world, not... Yeah, you know what I mean. The world. We humans are still cleaning up the mess. The Eastern world seems so interesting. Greece and Turkey pre-1000. Oh yeah. If you look at the Eastern Roman Empire, what the Europeans came to start calling Greece, the Greeks, because they wanted to claim the Roman heritage, even though Rome was technically Constantinople still, right? But it's the medieval Europeans who started the whole "they're Greeks, not Roman" thing, because they wanted to claim the heritage of to be the descendants of Rome. Yeah, if you look at Constantinople, the Eastern Roman Empire, it was the golden, shiny city. So you all know Lord of the Rings, right? Okay. Gondor is Constantinople, right? Gondor is the shining city. Gondor is Constantinople end stage, end stage Constantinople. That's what Tolkien was referencing, right? This golden empire, this very powerful, advanced civilization that was on its last legs, and that was literally crumbling. That's 15th century Constantinople. But 10th century Constantinople was amazing, right? Recho Ricard, 5 a.m. here. I wasn't expecting medieval company while I get ready for work. Well, thank you for letting me accompany you on your preparations to get ready to go off and grind away. Okay, that's improved anyway. It's less pointy. Yeah, less pointy. I just visited. Didn't know that. Lord of the Rings. Yep. Tolkien. Most of the peoples in Tolkien's world reference historical peoples. Rohan. The writers of Rohan. They're Anglo-Saxons, right? They're Anglo-Saxons. And in fact, you all have asked me about medieval movies and productions that have good medieval costumes. Lord of the Rings. The Rohan. Very accurate for late Anglo-Saxon clothing. So like 11th century clothing, English clothing, Rohan. They've more accurate than any production I can think of offhand. But it's a fantasy movie, right? And yet still, Peter Jackson created a more accurate Anglo-Saxon court than any movie or TV show I've seen personally. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Again, historical Hollywood and mainstream productions made by American production companies are less likely to be historically accurate than fantasy movies and shows are. Yeah. Tree Drive, thank you. This is by Armor and Castings. It's a replica of Beatrice d'Este's pendant. And this, I have a little short video, if you check out on this channel, how to wear your jewelry, how to wear your bling. I have a video one for men and one for women, because men wear these also, on how you can accessorize using this simple piece of jewelry in so many different ways. You can check that out. It's a very fun, 2 little videos. They're like a minute or less each. They're really fun. I'm really happy how they turned out, so you should check them out. So let me see. Lord of the Rings was more accurate and all filmed in New Zealand. Yep. Love Lord of the Rings. New Zealand for the win. So mutton sleeves from the earlier Victorian era are just traditional forms of shoulder pads. I mean, mutton sleeves are a way that you can create bulk in your shoulders. But the idea of putting bulk in your shoulders, like, that's 15th century. 15th century people loved big puffy shoulders. Very much loved. In fact, that might be the first time I can think of in Europe that big puffy shoulders come into fashion, is the 15th century. Yeah, I can't think of an earlier era than that, because everything before that is smooth-shouldered. Big puffy shoulders for the win, 15th century Europe. That's the first time those sleeves. So in the Victorian era, they're actually hearkening back to the Gothic sleeves, which were so fat. Gothic, neo-Gothic was very big in the Victorian era, right? That's all part of that neo-Gothic movement. Let me see. Harlots, it's on Netflix at the moment. Harlots, could you add Harlots? I will look at Harlots. I haven't even heard of it. I will check out those stills. Let me see. Just Visiting says, I feel like the West and the East evolved so differently. Yep. Everything from governments educating to religious Christianity. 100%. Over the last 11 years, I've spent about 8 of them in Korea. And because I love learning the history of the places where I live, one of the things I have absolutely learned is just how different Asian history is at a fundamental level. And like it's not even comparable for the most part. And what's happening in one side of the continent is nearly never what's happening on the other end of the continent. Yeah, it is really interesting. You're absolutely right. Completely different. And yeah, even the development of Christianity. Most people don't know that Christianity came to Asia almost as soon as it came to anywhere else, because the Apostle Thomas went to India, and soon after Jesus' death, went to India and spread Christianity. So the kind of Christianity that is in India, there is a form of Christianity in India that dates back almost 2,000 years at this point, right? And then, of course, there's the Nestorian Christians. So, Christianity has been in Asia for a long time. It isn't just the 19th century missionaries who introduced it. Yeah, 100%. Harlots. We have to remember harlots. Top 3 fibers of the time. If the time is medieval Europe, top 3 fibers are silk, linen, and wool. Easy. But that's Europe. Not the same in Asia. In Korea, for instance, in most of the last 2,000 years, the top 3 fibers are silk, ramie, and cotton. Silk, ramie, cotton, and hemp, with hemp and cotton kind of being co-equal. So the difference is not even Orthodox versus Roman, Justin. It's even more complicated than that, because Nestorian Christians are neither. When was the golden age for Islam? The golden age for Islam was like 7th century to probably the 13th century, when the Mongols literally start burning libraries, like the Library of Baghdad. Thank you, Mongols. Hashtag Mongols are awesome. Hashtag Mongols also suck. Dark Age for Christianity. So the Dark Age in Europe is actually not as long. I don't think it's as long as people say it is. It's basically after the Justinian plague, for like the 100 years after the Justinian plague. So the 560s to 700-ish. And again, Christianity literally spans from Ireland to what is now China, to India, down to Ethiopia, right? So Christianity covers much more than people think. It's not just Europe. Christianity early on goes way beyond Europe. And I think Ethiopia might be the first polity to convert to Christianity. They do it before Rome does, for instance. So, yeah. So you can't even say what's a dark age for Islam or a golden era for Christianity or vice versa, because it's not a monolith. It's just as geopolitically related as religiously related, honestly. In medieval times, what was used for teeth cleaning? Oof, talking about medieval Europe, some bad things were used for teeth cleaning. They did clean their teeth. They thought dental hygiene was very important. Unfortunately, they tended to use powders that were made of things like ground chalk to polish their teeth, which would polish their teeth. It would clean them, but it would also remove the enamel, which made medieval people more subject to cavities than they may have otherwise been. But that is, they didn't have toothpaste. They used powders to polish their teeth. They had a stick. There's a recommendation for like splintering the end of a stick and using that to clean your teeth, and also to use a cloth to polish your teeth, but also to use the chalk, the ground up powders like chalk, abrasives, basically, to clean your teeth. So not great. Not really great, but dental hygiene definitely mattered. And they had mouthwash. They had mouthwash made of like infused water that would have probably actually been antibacterial, because a lot of spices and herbs are in fact antibacterial. And they definitely wanted sweet breath, so the mouthwash with spices, or putting spices, chewing on spices, was a way to ensure that you had sweet breath as well. Let me see. What British English did I hear where it had the same accent with Middle or Olden English? most modern British is nothing like Middle English at all. Definitely not Old English. Um, honestly, people who speak English with a Welsh accent probably sound closer to Middle English than the English do. Because the Middle English accent is very round, it's very trilled, and it's also guttural at the same time. So, for example, the word "were," they were good. Would have in Middle English would have pronounced "were," right? So it has this trill. It's got a musicality to it. Yeah, such. It's been a while since I've recited the prologue to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales in the original Middle English, but yeah. Oh, I just made that worse. Much worse, not better. I made it worse. Let me see. Okay. I want Star Trek dental protection. Yeah. Shellback Bow. Ryan is often saying he would like just 20 minutes in the Star Trek at sick bay.
24 hours.
24 hours. He wants a 24-hour consult. My dentist says that chalk would actually be a sensible method as it would neutralize the acid-producing bacteria and remove the plaque. If washed out, it wouldn't cause much damage. Yeah, but Twitchy, they weren't. From what I understand, the chalk powder they were using wasn't that finely ground, right? I'm not talking about like powder, like powder. Like it would have been, from what I understand, from what I've read, especially when they've examined the teeth of the skeletons, the chalk was chunkier than that. So it was actually more abrasive than it should have been, is what I understand. I may agree with you, but if it's not fine enough, then it's just going to be fully abrasive, especially if you use it too often, right? It's like overbrushing, right? Except that with an abrasive powder, there's more likelihood of overbrushing, of overpolishing. Just visiting. If you go to my, I have a travel channel where I do tours. If you check out my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel and look up tour or walking tour, I've done lots of tours of various places, historical tours, and guided tours where I share information. So you'll probably enjoy going and watching those recordings on my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel. Yep. Hola Jorge, saludos, bienvenido. ¿Qué tal? Oh yeah, so well, I've been doing my sewing. My condottiero has been working on his drawing. These are maps for his game, Pathfinder? Yeah. These are for his Pathfinder D&D game, and he designs these maps himself from his imagination, and he's been drawing them. He's turning these into art, right? He's going to actually have an exhibit on his maps, his fantasy maps, his fantasy world maps. So we visited a famous Korean artist here in Korea, and the artist examined his portfolio of Dungeons and Dragons map drawings, and he was enchanted by them. And he's insisted that Ryan copy them into larger format, and he wants to sponsor an exhibit of his work, of his art, next year. So we're really excited about that too. Yeah. Twitchy wants to be in your D&D group, so apparently you do need to do an online game, Handsome. Twitchy says, I also wonder if there was grading and quality issues in location. Definitely akin to turkey teeth today, 100%. Oh, did we just get a warning? 15%. Oh, okay. We'll take it down to 5. Those are beautiful maps. They look like mazes. Yep. Oh, you can. Okay, right. Oh, yeah, Ryan is absolutely a game nerd. So I am not. I'm a supporter. When he does games, I'm happy to make food and make everyone comfortable and feel welcome. But I'm just more of a do it in real life than do it on a tabletop kind of girl. I've tried D&D and co. It's just not my bag. But I fully support him, and I fully support all of you who explore your creative fantasy in that manner. I think it's fantastic.
They just didn't understand that it was the arsenic doing it.
Please, okay, Handsome. Okay, these are my channel members and patrons. I'm going to see about Ryan doing a channel member and patron game for you, okay? I'm going to convince him. Check out the Discord. I'll get to the Discord about it, okay? And Villa, reach out to me. You're one of my super fans. Even if, just reach out to me and I'll add you to the Discord, okay?
Has found the coffee shop.
Oh, Haas, did you find us? Awesome, man. What is my favorite medieval movie? Ever After.
It's a good one.
Ever After is hands down my favorite medieval movie in every way.
Mine is Lady Hawk.
I still prefer, it's a good one, but I prefer Ever After. Drew Barrymore, it's a retelling, historical retelling of the Cinderella story. The heroine saves herself. The clothing is great. The characterizations are great. The acting is great. Angelica Houston plays the wicked stepmother. And the wicked stepmother is absolutely given real character and a real backstory. Her stepsisters are great. Leonardo da Vinci features in it. Ever After for the win. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, full stop. It's definitely one of my favorite medieval movies. Yep, 100%. So when Ryan leads a D&D game, he's full into the role-playing part of it. Like he gets really in-depth. He's an excellent storyteller. He's a fantastic storyteller. So patrons and channel members, if you would like to get in on Ryan's D&D game, I'm going to make him, he doesn't like doing online games, but I'm going to make him do it. It'll be good for him. I'll set up a Discord. I'll set up a room on the Discord server, and he'll take it away from there. You've asked for it, I'm providing. New perk of the Creative Contessa for patrons and channel members is a fantastic, unparalleled D&D adventure experience with the condottiero. What? He stepped away stupidly, so he doesn't know what I've just promised you all. I'm going to set up on the Discord. We'll set up a D&D channel. Man, I'm just having such issues getting this stupid point to go away. I might give up. Oh no, maybe I've got it. Yeah. So what are your favorite medieval or Renaissance movies or TV shows? Yeah, I'm interested to hear who of you have seen Ever After. If you haven't seen Ever After, what are you waiting for? That should be your weekend viewing, damn it. Go check out Ever After. It's my favorite Drew Barrymore movie and my favorite Angelica Houston movie, full stop. And there's a lot of great Angelica Houston movies out there, just saying. Yeah. Ever After was also very informative for me as well.
You know who Impizor is?
Who do I know who is? Oh yeah, that's Takeda. Yeah.
Comments have been showing up.
Shellback Post says, obviously the solution is for Ryan and Twitchy to move to Japan and we'll play in person in Japan. Or hear me out, everyone, Creative Contessa retreat to Korea. I'll rent a 500-year-old Hanok estate, a nobleman's estate, and we will just frolic for a whole week. How does that sound? Now, granted, y'all are going to have to pay your fair share, but Creative Contessa retreat, medieval Gyeongju, the city of gold, Kumsong, complete with historical guided tours. You can game in this amazing historical setting. I think that sounds better. Don't you all think that sounds way better? Check out my Gyeongju playlist on my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel if you want to see what I'm offering. Yeah, so in Mondays, for those who haven't heard, on Monday morning Asia, middle of the night-ish Europe, Sunday evening in the Americas, I am going to be doing a live stream costume review. We're going to be looking at a variety of outfits from movies and shows, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the splendid. And I think we're definitely going to include some of the Ever After pieces because they're all good. Like the only thing that's not great are the clothes that Henry wears for most of it. And we'll talk about that too. Dance lessons. See, Twitchy? Exactly. Dance lessons in historic Gyeongju. I have taught dance lessons in the palaces in Gyeongju, so you too can have part of this experience. I liked The Musketeers starring the late Oliver Reed. Richard, was that the 70s? Was that the 70s Musketeers? The Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers from the 70s, like the Raquel Welch Three Musketeers. We had a medieval Christmas market in Leominster, UK. The costumes were awesome. The reality is that in the UK, and I think Twitchy will confirm, for the most part, the clothing is going to be pretty good at markets and fairs. It just is. UK reenactors take it very seriously. Sometimes for the worse, but usually for the better. So yeah, you're much more likely to see accurate clothing at UK fairs and markets and whatnot than in other places. In Germany, unfortunately, the caliber of clothing, the historical accuracy of clothing, has really taken a nosedive at medieval markets, sadly.
I like Shakespeare in Love as well.
Oh, Shakespeare in Love. Yeah, Shakespeare in Love is pretty great, actually. It's they do a pretty decent job in Shakespeare in Love. I haven't looked at it in a while, so we'll definitely have to include some stills from Shakespeare in Love. If we get enough viewership, and support for the costume review, we'll turn it into a weekly series, because God knows there's plenty to discuss. And the idea is that we will show you stills from the shows and movies, and then we'll also show you the historical original on which it should, either how it should look or how it did look. Yeah. Yeah, right. That's right. Shakespeare in Love. You're right. Shakespeare in Love included the toothbrush twig. Remember that? Viola is actually scrubbing her teeth with a toothbrush twig. You're right. Yeah, Twitchy.
Trying to figure out if Takeda's blocked on your channel.
Oh no, is he not able to communicate? Okay, so everyone, we had some issues over the 2 days ago. Philip from Irish Medieval History and I had some big issues with YouTube blocking people. We didn't block anyone. YouTube didn't like what some words people were using, and auto blocked them. So if you know anyone who is not able to participate in the live stream, you've got to reach out to YouTube, because we didn't do it. YouTube blocked a bunch of people if they used trigger words that the YouTube found offensive. And this is increasing the problem because this is getting automated, and the robots aren't as smart as they think they are. So yeah.
I can't even find the spot where it tells me.
Yeah, Takeda's been blocked. Ask Takeda if he can come at it with a different account. Tell him that YouTube seems to have done this. It's not us. Philip went and looked.
I can hear you. He's watching.
Oh.
I think he just can't comment.
Takeda, I am so sorry. YouTube did something. Philip and I tried to figure it out, and we can't find where it's been blocked. It's very annoying. Ryan's looking into it. We're trying to get you active again. Let me see. Auto blocking is becoming more of an issue as they push more and more abomination intelligence. Yeah, and here's the problem with the auto blocking. The block doesn't show up under my blocked accounts thing. So I can't even undo it. I have no control over it whatsoever, which pisses me off. Yeah. Community, go to community.
If I could find a thing that says community, I would.
You have to go to studio, but on the web, not in the app. So go at it through, yeah, that's annoying. Shellback says, I enjoyed Kingdom. Oh yes, the South Korean Joseon vampire zombie series.
Yeah.
We loved Kingdom. It was fantastic.
Do not watch the prequel.
Don't watch the prequel to Kingdom. It sucked. It sucked bad. Yeah.
Ruined the whole thing.
Unfortunately, the clothing in a lot of K-dramas is not accurate for the time period it's actually depicting. In K-dramas, if it's in the Joseon Dynasty, they just all have them dressed like it's the 19th century. But a lot of the K-dramas are supposed to be in the 15th, 16th, or 17th, or even 18th century, when the clothing for women especially is not the high-waisted. It's actually a waist. The skirts should be at the waist. The jogari should be longer. Or in the 16th century, they should be so full and not fitted at all, so you don't see the woman's body in any way, shape, or form, really. And unfortunately, they just don't. Korean K-dramas have not cottoned on to the idea of the Joseon Dynasty has fashion that changes. So, yeah. It's hilarious comments on digital issues while wearing medieval clothing. I know. Welcome to the new age. Sorry. Seven Samurai the movie. I have not watched. Oh, Takeda, you're there. Okay, Takeda Sig is there under Takeda Sig. It worked. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Takeda. We seem to have no control over it. Okay, so here is, let me show you what this looks like now that I've done some cosmetic work on this. Right, okay. Okay, so basically, this is, right, but remember, this is not how you'll see it, at least not on this dress. How you will see it is like this. Because it will be on the inside, it will be the lining of the sleeve, so that when I cuff the sleeves of the gown back, this is what you will see. Right, so that is what you will see when it is all done. Right? Beautiful and silky, and look at how it changes in the light, right? Yep. And you know, what's funny thing is when you think about it, silk velvet looks a lot like fur, right? It looks like a fur that's been nicely trimmed and, you know, all the guard hairs have been removed. So that's not an accident. Let me see. I liked the prequel, but it's not nearly as good as the rest of the series. Yeah, I wish there was a season 3 as well, because season 2 ends on a cliffhanger, right? Season 2 does not end the series. Oh, thank you, Faye. Appreciate that compliment. I don't mind working with silk velvet when it is silk velvet that is backed in a cotton backing instead of a silk ground. Silk ground with silk pile is the worst. 100% silk velvet, it's the worst. I hates it, I do. Anyone else hate 100% silk velvet? It's the worst, isn't it? It's the most, it's sentient, like an octopus. And like an octopus, if you cut off part of it, the sentience just continues to the part that you've cut off, right? It's terrible. I have a pretty high threshold for quality as long as the zombies are good. Hey, Shellback Pope, that's fair, man. That's fair. Silk velvet is for looking and petting. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, so those of you, okay, Twitchy and Co who are in my Discord, I shared that video that shared some tips for getting pressure marks out. Do not use it on real silk velvet. Do not. Let me show you what happens when you use the technique on silk velvet and not a synthetic velvet, right? I'm pretty certain that video was for an acetate velvet or a rayon velvet, because when you use that technique on the silk velvet, this is what happens. See how it's all fuzzed out and pilly, right? It's no longer like this, all fine, right? It's all fuzzy, and the shine also goes away because it's now fuzzed out. And this was with distilled water using exactly the techniques she demonstrated. So I'm pretty certain that does not work for actual silk velvet, is what I think. So the other techniques I found are steaming, and hanging the garment in the shower and letting the whole room steam. There's also a thing called a needleboard. I'm going to look into buying one and experiment with ironing on the needleboard to get the creases out and see if that works. Yeah. So do not use that technique on silk velvet. Don't. Yeah. Now you need to get into Discord. Okay, Shell man, you're a member. Dude, Shell's a member of the Discord. I will post. I'll do another community post for my members and for my patrons with the invitation to the Discord, so you can join. Right? It's a great place. The Discord, Twitchy, isn't the Discord a great place? Right? I heard the size of a ruff in Elizabethan times depicted your wealth. The bigger, the richer. Is this right? Robloid, yeah. I mean, it's conspicuous consumption. Yes, I mean, absolutely. 100%. What? 100%. That's often the case. Yeah, and ruffs and frills and all of that. Yeah, they're expensive accessories, especially to keep them nice and white. Because to clean them, they had to be taken apart and cleaned and remade, basically. So that's an expense in and of itself. Yeah. Okay, so everyone, I'm at 10%, and as we all know, this goes down quickly. So, any final questions or comments? While I give you a chance for any final questions, I would like to thank my patrons and my channel members for financially supporting me in times when financial support is not necessarily an easy thing to do. For those who might be interested in financially supporting my research and exploration into medieval material culture, my recreation of it, and sharing my knowledge with you, check out my Patreon on the Creative Contessa, or you can become a channel member here on YouTube. Creative Contessa also comes with a host of perks. My Creative Contessa Discord, soon to be a D&D game led by the best dungeon master in the world, if I do say so myself, my condottiero. Also, of course, I share extra resources with my patrons and my channel members, and as a patron or channel member, you have access to videos, full-length videos, full tutorials to which everyone else does not have access, including dance tutorials, crafting tutorials, early access to vlogs, project vlogs I don't share with anyone. So yeah. Otherwise, I'd like to thank all of you members of the community, for being part of the community, for asking the good questions, for sharing your energy and your compliments, for being you, for hitting the thumbs up, for subscribing, for supporting me in all the ways you can, even if it's not financially. I really appreciate all of you greatly. I love this community we're building together, and I really am honored that you want to be part of it. Ryan said I should stand up so you can see all of me. Whatever, okay. Oh, you can see the velvet all over me now. It looks like I'm infested. It looks like I'm infested with something. Yeah. Let me see. Any final questions? Oh, Rob Lloyd, welcome to my community. If you've been enjoying, double tap the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, everyone, the notification bell, check it and make sure that all notifications are clicked. Otherwise, the algorithm will think for you and decide when you want to be notified, which is probably not when you actually do want to be notified, when I do things like go live. Yeah, yeah, it looks like fabric worms, doesn't it? It's not, though, thankfully. It looks like I have a constellation pattern on the dress. Yeah, that's all the little, you know, the pieces that have kind of, it's silk. It's all silk. It's the silk pile from the velvet, basically. Yeah. Yeah, Haas, thank you so much. And Haas, I haven't been ignoring. I saw that you messaged me again. I've been so busy today. I haven't had a chance to reply, but I promise I will. I promise I will. I promise I'll get to you. Right now Pakistan cannot be on my list of places to visit because of my passport, but I do. But Pakistan is on my list of places that I want to visit. It really is, seriously. Iran, God knows Iran, Jesus, Iran has some of the most amazing food and the most beautiful sights in the world and such a gorgeous history. Also not a place I can visit right now because of my passport. Yep. Oh, Tanya, thank you for sharing again. That's so wonderful of you. So any final questions, anyone? Otherwise, I've got a busy weekend live streaming tomorrow in about 13 hours from now. 13 and a half hours will be another medieval sewing party. My condottiero will also be doing some live lute practice. Yes?
Probably.
Yes.
I just found 53 lute tabs from 1400 to 1500.
Oh, nice. Okay, fantastic. On Sunday morning Asia time, Saturday afternoon, evening Americas, middle of the night, Saturday to Sunday, your Africa, Philip from Irish Medieval History and I will be doing another show for you. We're going to be focusing on life in medieval France. So if you're interested about the experience, and it'll be a Q&A also, we'll be presenting information, but you are welcome to come and ask your questions if you're interested in what life was like in medieval France. Please join us. We're going to be delving into that. We're really excited to share dancing and music and food and all the things with you, right? Going to be this kind of casual chat format, but you ask the questions, we will answer to them to the best of our knowledge. And then Sunday evening Americas, middle of the night your Africa, Monday morning Asia, I will be doing the costume review with King Henry VIII's royal court. So everyone, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Reach out to me if you haven't gotten a link for the Discord if you're one of my channel members or patrons. Otherwise, I hope to see you all tomorrow. And until then, everyone, stay creative.
Your goodbye took 3%.
My goodbye took 3%. You're right. Until next time, everyone, stay creative.